Welcome, everybody. It is May 21st. That sounds right. Yes, 2023 on a Sunday, and we are doing the Sunday show. I'm Jimmy Snow, joined once again by the illustrious Matt Dillahunty. Matt, how are you?
Miserable.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm always getting better by the time it's showtime. It's been a rough day.
Sure.
It helped if I mute you over on my other screen.
Uh-oh. Nothing is worse than my voice, except maybe my voice twice.
Twice on a delay mirrored when I'm trying to pay attention. Yeah. Because I was like, is Jimmy saying welcome again while I'm talking about my terrible day? My just stupid quick updates. We've changed my diabetics meds a little bit, and it's basically giving me indigestion, heartburn, and constant annoying burps. So my apologies if I become rather gross during this. And today was a rough day. I mean, it's feeding day, but it's also, we got back from a reptile convention. We were checking out the animals, and it turns out that the male breeder gecko that we bought a week ago had a sore on his scrotum. And we had been keeping an eye on it, but we're, hoping it was just rubbed raw. It turns out it's worse than that. It's an infection. We've had to quarantine him and remove maggots from the wound, which is probably what was keeping it clean. But the vets are closed, so tomorrow we're going to go find a vet and get some antibiotics. And other than that, it's just a normal Sunday for me. I'm ready for calls and chit chats, ready to be shown that I'm wrong, or to have good conversations with people who are not right.
Yeah, I have a lot of optimism for today. Also feeling a bit under the weather, not entirely new, but we've got this show, and then I'll be reading the Book of Mormon at 5 with Aron and his panel. And then tonight, if you are a patron of this channel, patreon.com/calltheline, you can go and join Dave Warnock and I at 7 p.m. Central. So that's 8 on the East Coast and 5 on the West Coast. We're going to be Zooming. We're going to be on Zoom, hanging out with people, probably just for about an hour. It probably won't be one of the longer Zoom ones. But yeah, for about an hour. So if you are a patron, patreon.com/calltheline, you can do that. Other than that, I think I'm anxious to just jump into calls. It's been a few days since I've taken a call. It feels weird.
Why don't you steer unless you don't want to?
No, I'm good. Yeah, let's do it. Let's start with talking to Isaiah in New Jersey. Isaiah, you are on the line.
Hi, thank you very much.
Now I'm hearing myself twice. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm an atheist, and I got Jews for Jesus stuff sent to my house, and they have replicated my address and name and distributed it. I did a little bit of research on this group, and it turns out they've been encouraging people to send them names and addresses of Jewish people they know in the United States and Canada. I'm just kind of, I guess, feeling a little betrayed. There was someone in my life who, I'm open about that I don't believe, and someone was in my house, and, they wrote down my name and address and gave it to these guys to start doing this. It's kind of my position today.
I was kind of confused by what you meant when you said they replicated your address, but they didn't do anything with your address. Right?
If you, sorry.
No, we're waiting on you.
Oh, if you go to their website, they if you donate to them, they give you a copy of addresses and names of various Jews in Canada and the United States. So for about $7, I believe, you can get my name and address, several other ones, and that's kind of where I am.
And so is the purpose for that list of addresses to ask the people who pay that money to go and proselytize and ask those people for money?
I'm not sure why they're doing this. I'm just going off the website. They're saying that you can donate $7 and they'll send missionary stuff to my house, and you'll get the address and you can pray for my soul. So
I'm still
confused.
Yeah, me too. I am too. Yeah. So to be clear, if I go to their website and I pay $7, they're going to give me a huge list of people with your name on it, or if I request it, they'll give me your specific information.
They give you, the website is, it's Supernatural. It's run by a man named Sid Roth. And if you donate money, $7 gets you a list of 7 Jewish people of Canada and the United States. That's it. They don't say anything on the website how they distribute it. Like if you give them $14, they'll give you 2 lists or anything like that.
But you don't, and again, you don't know what they're, so man, I'm so confused. I have lots to say. I have lots to say about Jews for Jesus, but before we get there, I'm still lost on as well. So you get, all right. So I'm a prospective donator. I go to the website and I do this thing where I want to apparently give $7, which I'm on their website right now. I actually can't find where to give 7. I can
find that either.
I can find where to give 50, 150, 75.
It's called Project 77.
It's what?
It's called Project 77 on their website.
Okay. And so, presuming I find it here in a minute, I found it. Okay. Here we go. Thank you for helping reach the Jewish people of North America with the good news, including Jewish millennials. In appreciation of your $77, we will send you a copy of both my evangelist book and 7 copies to Jewish people. So,
I'm sorry. I meant 77. I apologize.
No.
That's right, because it's also, they're not getting your address. They're saying if you donate $77, we'll send you this book and we'll also send it to 7 Jewish people. It doesn't say anything about giving out addresses.
I guess they've updated. I remember this this was very clearly, this was like 2 weeks ago. I got this.
Okay, so I think I found where you're confused, but the address thing isn't on there either. It says, if you go down to the list of what you're getting, and by the way, again, I still have plenty to say about the Jews for Jesus. They're a creepy little cult. And if they got larger, if they became more mainstream, they would compete with Mormonism for fucking wild bullshit. But the underneath it says if you pay $77, you get a copy of the book, you get a copy of another book, you get a beautiful keychain replica of the high priest breastplate, whatever the fuck that is, and then the names of 7 Jewish people who will receive a copy of the book so you can pray for their salvation. Only 7 names will be sent to you, even if your donation exceeds $77. The remaining names will be prayed for by a group of intercessors. Now, as far as I can tell, I don't know whether that means Jewish people who have signed up, Jewish people who have said, I somehow want to be a Jew for Jesus. I do know that the Messianic Jews love to hang around real Jews and see if they can start to both. They don't actually, I think, care whether or not they actually convert people to Messianic Judaism. I think they are more interested in getting some sort of acceptance from a local community, some sort of familiarity where people see them and expect them to be there and expect them to, So, okay, for the record, if somebody is out there with a service that says, send us money and we will give you names and addresses, that would be terrible. I don't think that specific thing has happened here, despite the fact that this is still a grift. You know, it's still, and in fact, on the options, you can donate $77, $154, $777, or $7,777. The whole thing's still a grift. That part's all still true. Distributing your name, if you haven't requested it, would be potentially, there would be legal issues there. And I'm only familiar with that because in Mormonism, there are rules around who you can outreach to and when you have to stop and such. Obviously, they do their door-to-door thing, but as far as targeting a house and going back to an address you have, there are rules. And that's because of legal limitations. But specific, yeah, go ahead, Matt.
I just used the Wayback Machine. No version of this website, at least going back to January of 2022, includes anything other than the text that's listed. So it's never said it's going to give out people's address to people, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, Isaiah, I think you misread or misunderstood.
So what makes you think? What makes you think that somebody gave them your address?
There was a campaign in 2018, and when I was doing some research on it, and they were asking churches and people who watch the show to send it in, and there was details are small, but the way they wrote the address, it was from 2018. So moved, and so that was a factor. And I mean, I guess it's possible they got my name some other way, but
you haven't even shown Isaiah. You haven't even shown me that they have your name or your address, let alone how they got it. That's what I'm asking. How do you know they have your name and address?
Well, I got the mailings with my name and address on it.
Sure, but people get mailings all the time.
Right.
I get added. Yeah. Now, hang on. I get my regular mail and my email added to spam lists and websites, and my phone rings 20 times a day, all this stuff. And yet you immediately went to, they're selling my address, and I was betrayed by somebody close to me. No offense, but I don't think you are engaged in a rational investigation into what's going on here. Yeah, this particular ministry is probably awful, but there's no reason to think that you were betrayed, and people are going to get your address and send you stuff. So what's the problem?
I guess I'm wrong. It just with everything added up. It was my name and address on it. Like I said, I saw that campaign in 2018. I have a lot of evangelical friends, and I just I haven't done anything about this. I haven't talked to any of them yet.
Do you have any specifically Jew for Jesus? Any Messianic Jew friends?
I wouldn't. I guess you could say that. There's one particular friend I have who's barely brings it up occasionally, but she's on a Jewish background, and she's been,
yeah, I mean, to tell you the truth, even if she put your name on the list for mailers, I would hardly be worried that means you're being targeted for. Even if you found out she did. If anything, I'd appreciate any theistic friends who that's the extent of what they do, because your address is technically public information. In as much as phone books still exist, it's in the phone book.
Did you say you were in Canada?
New Jersey.
No, I'm in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought earlier he said Canada, and I was like, the phone number is Jersey.
I think,
right.
Was it earlier that you said that they send you 7 Jews addresses from America and Canada? Maybe that's where it came in? I don't remember.
Yes. It's United States and Canada, the campaign.
Well, Isaiah, I think we're going to move on, but yeah, I mean, if they start escalating anything, certainly call back. You can Google and see if there's any legal things that they should be worried about. If they come to your door, say, put me on your do not visit list or whatever version of that you want to use. But for the moment, I wouldn't spend a lot of time anxious that you're being targeted. And by the way, even if just your name is on a list and people are praying for you, I really wouldn't sweat that either. I think I'm prayed for every day. That's the nice thing about empty gestures. What's it doing to you?
Yeah, I can't stop anybody from praying for me.
Right.
All right, Isaiah.
Thanks.
Yeah. If anything else comes up or you're worried about anything else, give us a call back.
Okay, thank you.
See ya.
Yep. Thanks for the call. Yeah, it's incredibly frustrating. It reminds me a lot of the people who are like, the Jehovah's Witnesses keep coming knocking on my door. Yeah, well, do what I did. Put up a no soliciting sign that makes it clear that they're, shouldn't be proselytizing either. And when they come up to my door and ignore it, I point at the sign and ask them what that means. But at the end of the day, somebody's going to get your number. Somebody's going to get your address. Just be glad you're not, in a public figure position where people are adding your email address to, I don't know. I've had some really cool offers in email, but
it's been wild. A few announcements before we proceed on to more calls. We have one about Matt's logic not applying to everything, including slavery. But we'll get to that in a moment. We've got a few announcements for the upcoming week. Tomorrow on Skeptalk, Forrest and Gutsick Gibbon will be doing another evolution biology, anti-creationism. I was going to say hour, but that's a joke. It'll be more than an hour. On Tuesday, Dave Warnock on Dying Out Loud will be joined by Matt Dillahunty, and then Matt Dillahunty will return on Wednesday for his own show with Aaron Lewis. And then on Thursday is no longer students, Dr. Ben and Katy Montgomerie. And then I think we'll probably have some fun things for you this weekend as well. Next Sunday, I will not be here. Matt will be joined by No Illusions. And then, that's going to be an exciting show. And then, lots and lots of other stuff to look out for and announcements to look out for. We'll also be doing, for those people who have been waiting, we should be launching the Algorithm Army this week as well as a huge to-do list. It's funny because as far as my to-do list this week goes, I don't have, I'm not producing this week, though I might help out on Monday since that's going to be a long show, but I'm not actually producing this week, but my to-do list for the channel this week is longer than ever. So it's going to be an exciting week all around. It's Noah Illusions for the record. And then let me think if there's any. No, I already mentioned it. Dave Warnock and I on Zoom tonight for patrons of the channel, patreon.com/calltheline. Anyway, we will jump to the next call, and I'm interested to hear from Kevin in Oregon, who has some demands of Matt. Go ahead, Kevin.
Wow.
Just playing devil's advocate here, but I wonder what Matt thinks about Galatians 5:1.
What about it?
Do you want me to read it?
You can read it. I can read it. What's the relevance? I mean, to say, what do you think of it? I think it's the verse that starts Galatians that talks about Christ setting us free.
From what?
From the yoke of bondage.
Okay. Let me read you the easy-to-read version here so everyone understands.
I don't need
clearly.
it. I've got 50 Bibles in front of me, including a Bible dictionary. Why would we need the easy-to-read version?
I just told you why.
Well, no, you didn't. Why would we need the easy-to-read version?
Yeah. So everyone can understand it very easily.
Okay. Go for it.
Is there a problem with that?
Oh my God, Kevin, I'm going to give you some.
Apart from you're clearly a smug prick who thinks he's going to make a point that he's not.
Kevin, I'm going to give you some advice.
I'm going to bet you beforehand that I know this better than you. But go ahead.
I'm playing devil's advocate. I don't necessarily. I want to hear your opinion on this. I'm not trying to be a smug prick.
Hang on. Hang on. Are you a theist or an atheist? Because I don't need a smug prick coming in to be devil's advocate.
Well, under your
I don't need devil's advocate.
I am.
Are you a theist? Are you an advocate of the Bible? Do you believe that Galatians is inspired by God and applicable to Christians?
Well, when you put it like that, yeah, sure. I mean,
so you're a theist.
Yeah, that. But
you think that Galatians is inspired by God?
Your definition of a theist and an atheist, the difference is if you ask the question, are you convinced that a God exists? And the answer to that question is no, I'm not.
Great. Now answer Matt's question whether you think
Kevin,
the Bible is inspired by God.
You just said that you don't think a God exists, but you think Kevin, why won't you listen to me? You just said that you don't think a God exists, but you think that Galatians is inspired by God. How can that be?
Hey, you're going off topic. If you look at what the call screener wrote
I'm asking you a question. Are you going to answer my question, or are you going to leave the show?
See, and exactly as I predicted.
Exactly as you predicted. What? Predict something, 5:1. Kevin. Bring it. Bring it, Kevin. I'm ready for you to bring it. Why are you afraid to answer questions? I'll read the verse.
Read the verse.
Oh my God!
I didn't stop you. Hey, all right, hang on. Hang on. First, I'm going to mute you. And now you're going to shut up and you're going to listen to me for a second. And when I take you off mute, I'm going to let you read the verse. But you're not a Christian. You're not an advocate of this verse. And this verse isn't relevant to what you think it's relevant to. Because the word there, the specific Greek word in that passage that is translated as bondage is 1397, which is doulia, which is ceremonial or figurative slavery. It doesn't mean that Christ has set all slaves free. It doesn't say that Christ is opposed to slavery. It doesn't say that God is opposed to slavery. It's a fucking metaphor that Christ has freed us from the bondage of slavery. Christ is freeing us from the death that we are supposed to have because of sin, not slavery. There's nothing in this verse that is opposed to the institution of slavery in the slightest. The verse very clearly and forever and all times. This is why Cy doesn't do Bible studies with professed atheists. And this is why you, as a non-theist who doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, shouldn't try to shut in and come in and pretend that this verse contradicts my position at all. You don't know the Greek. You don't know what the passage says. But by all means, read it and make your point.
Oh, no, well, that's all I was at. That's what I wanted was your opinion, and you just gave it to me, and that's what I was wondering. I'm not pretending I know it all. I wanted to talk to someone who does know better than me, and you just cleared that up, so I appreciate that.
This call is so fucking weird. Man, Kevin, do you have any other points you want to put forth then? This whole idea, you did, by the way, say, yes, I believe that the Bible is inspired by God when Matt asked you the longer question about it. And then you said you don't know.
Okay, fair enough. That was, I misspoke. I don't necessarily believe that because I am not convinced that this guy died and rose from the dead and all this stuff. I'm not convinced of that. So according to Matt's definition and his question, are you convinced? I'd have to answer that with a no, I am not convinced.
Okay. So, do you operate as a believer when you're amongst Christians? Do you identify yourself with them, or what do you identify yourself with Christians as?
Oh, no. When I'm around Christians, I argue with them. And when I'm around atheists, I argue with them. I just like to argue.
Yeah, that's because you're a fucking prick. You're a contrarian. You called in, and what you initially tried to suggest in your screening thing was that I'm somehow wrong on slavery, and you want me to read Galatians 5:1, as if I wasn't already more familiar with Galatians 5:1 than you before you called in. What else have you got? Because it says here that you want to bring up another point.
Well, I'll read the verse in the easy-to-read version. It says, we have freedom now because Christ made us free, so stand strong in that freedom. Don't go back into slavery again. Those are God's words.
Talking about the slavery. It's talking about slavery to sin, to our sinful nature, to the reprobate nature that God hath given us over to.
Oh, okay. And then the next thing was just a simple true or false. The entire mammalian animal kingdom is sexually dichotomous. True or false?
I have no idea about the entire mammalian animal kingdom because I haven't investigated the entire mammalian animal kingdom.
But go on.
What difference does it make to anything?
That I just was saying that, and that's your answer. So
Wait. So you called to be clear, Kevin, you called the Sunday show about religion, theology, spirituality, supernatural claims to ask whether or not a true or false, not actually to engage in a conversation, to issue to us as though you're hosting a show, a true or false question on whether or not every mammal is sexually dichotomous.
Right. It's basic biology. And I recall a show that a week or two ago where you guys were challenging people that there's modus ponens, A or not A, and there's no middle ground. But now it seems that's changing, right?
No, there's still A or not A. That's exhaustive and exclusive.
So the statement, the entire mammalian kingdom is sexually dichotomous, is either true or false, correct?
Okay, fine.
Yeah,
then
it's either true. Hang on, it's either true or not true.
Right, true or not true. You're right.
But you called for a true or false one, and we would literally have to start defining terms, because if the answer would be false, if it is true that sex is non-binary amongst humans, then it would be not true that all mammals are sexually dichotomous, because we are now discovering that humans are not, that sex in humans is in fact non-binary. And humans are mammals.
Well, I haven't interviewed every human, so I would have to.
You don't
say
have
I
to.
don't
You
know,
don't
right?
have to interview. No, this is the thing, Kevin. This is the thing. This is why you shouldn't be arguing with theists and atheists. You shouldn't be arguing with anybody because you don't know what you're talking about. You don't have to explore every human to discover this. If you find a single human that is not sexually dimorphic, for example, depending on how you define sexual dimorphism, as there's XX and XY. Well, then as soon as you find XYY. Now sexual dimorphism isn't true. Just one example proves it is not true. But that is about sexual characteristics of gametes, chromosome. Yes, we have. Yes, there are plenty of people with XYY.
Now, Kevin, go ahead and thank Matt for upgrading your argument, because it actually shows how non-prepared you were, because you called for a true or false about sexual dichotomy. Hang on,
you
Kevin.
Guys are getting kind of combative.
Hang on, Kevin. I don't give a fuck.
I'm going to mute
Shut
you
the fuck
because
up, Kevin.
we're having a fun time educating the smug prick who doesn't seem to know anything about anything.
Yeah, you called in with this gotcha about sexual dichotomy. Sexual dichotomous was the phrase you used when you meant dimorphism. In the same way that you didn't know what you were talking about with the Galatians verse, because you have not bothered to check your definition and check your phrasing. And by the way, a quick Google search shows that apparently across many mammals, the concept of dimorphism isn't perfect either. So when you told me to stop because we're being combative, if you're talking over me, you want to talk about something that is combative that I don't oblige, try and fucking talk over me. I have all the power. This isn't a democracy here. And two, maybe come back with your actual, next time you want to call in just to argue, we're being combative, but you've called to be devil's advocate because you, in your words, like to argue. Maybe check your definitions and terms before you call next time. And thank Matt for educating you and upgrading your arguments today.
Right. So I do appreciate that because I'm just trying to learn and get better. So I do appreciate that. I'm not sure if you guys can still hear me, but
we hear you.
So to paraphrase your answer to Galatians 5:1 is that the word slavery here means something different here than it does in Exodus and Leviticus and in other parts of the Bible. This word, it literally says slavery in the easy to read version. It says slavery, but
some of us aren't bound. Some of us aren't bound.
Say the same word.
Some of us,
correct?
Some of us aren't bound to the modern English easy to read translation, and we understand that the word in Galatians is in Greek and the word in Leviticus is in Hebrew. so they come from entirely different languages that got translated into English. And we also understand when something is being used in a metaphoric sense, that at no point does this verse in Galatians or any other verse in the entire Bible come out against the institution of slavery or of owning slaves, and in fact supports slaves across the board without exception. The Galatians 1 verse is Paul writing, because it says, stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ has made us free, and be not entangled with the yoke of bondage. Behold, Paul say unto you, that if you be circumcised, Christ shall profit you nothing. This is him beginning his thing about, hey, what has Christ done for us? We are now free from the yoke of sin. There's nothing in this verse that in any way suggests God is standing in opposition to people owning other people as property, which is expressly permitted in the book. How do you not know this stuff before you call? How do you find our number and not know this stuff?
No. Hey, man. It literally says, don't go back into slavery again. So don't blame me.
Hey, man. No, it doesn't literally say that.
Hey, man, it's literally in fucking Greek.
Anyone can go on eSword. Anyone can go on eSword, easy to read version.
I literally, either of us can mute you so quick and so easy when you try to yell over us.
You know shit that you don't know. You are in the kindergarten theology, cookie cutter, easy English language version. You have not found a Bible verse that condemns slavery. So
Matt, I'm about to blow a lid off this whole thing. If you go to the Bible basic English version, it doesn't use the word slavery at all.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's arbitrarily picking your translation doesn't fucking matter, Kevin. If you're going to use a word and anchor your entire point, shut the fuck up when I'm talking.
I dropped him.
Oh, man. If you're going to make a point that is anchored to a singular word, and that word is a translation of a translation of a translation, make sure you get your core term correct. Because you just called in with I was on a Reddit where atheists and theists were arguing, and I saw some theists say this, and it wasn't responded to adequately, and I'm going to call in, and you'll hear it in my voice from the first sentence. Oh, I'm getting mad on this one. Oh, and now you're not letting me just run the call, just as I predicted. Like that's some giant gotcha. Oh, would your prediction come true? Are you super prescient? Fuck off. Fuck all the way off with it. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So somebody needs to clip this call and set it aside, because there are individuals who are like, you guys are just, you guys just take only the stupid theist callers and you're just mean to all of them. We just spent a half hour correcting one of the world's stupidest, most contrarian atheists I've ever had the displeasure of trying to talk to, who called in to suggest that a verse in Galatians that he doesn't understand is somehow counter to my statements about everything the Bible does actually say about slavery, and wants to do it with you're saying that the English word in Galatians that's there means something different than it does in Exodus and Leviticus. No, what I'm saying is you're too stupid to understand metaphor, and you are not informed enough to understand those passages, and you didn't find a gotcha. Just like you didn't find a gotcha when you asked your supposed gotcha question about whether the entire mammalian, whether all mammals are sexually dimorphic. Well, first of all, we've already observed parthenogenesis in mammals, although it's incredibly rare, but we have observed it, which means that what's required for sex is not really relevant. But when it comes to the chromosomes, if you were to look at it where there's XX and XY, there's also XYY and a bunch of others. And yes, those are incredibly tiny fractions of the population and aberrations. And on a normative level, to the extent that we have been able to explore, on a normative level, mammalians are generally speaking sexually dimorphic. And that doesn't make any difference. Even if humans were absolutely inviolably sexually dimorphic with regard to biological reproduction, that's completely independent from gender as the social construct. So you marched in with 2 points that you were too stupid to understand correctly, thinking you were going to get a gotcha both times, and you got owned. Go do some reading, Kevin.
I did like how Kevin wasn't even brave enough to get to whatever transphobic point they were trying. He was trying to work his way toward. But yeah, the phrase is dimorphic, not that they're sexually dichotomous. There was another point I had for him but I think I lost. Oh, actually, and even dimorphism amongst mammals is a spectrum. One of the unique things about humans even amongst other primates, other great apes. We are less sexually dimorphic than many other mammalians. I think most other mammalian species, including, again, like gorillas, are more sexually dimorphic than humans are. And so, yeah, it just maybe show up with any amount of understanding, Kevin, whose last name I assume is Dunning-Kruger. I did try to change the label, atheist according to your definition, caller, at the bottom, but he made that point twice. Unfortunately, it didn't fit.
According to Matt's definition, because I'm not convinced that a God exists. Congratulations. Right. You're either convinced or you're not.
So now if you're a theist wondering if you should call in, see, we just beat up an atheist for you. Call in, let's have the discussion.
I guarantee you I will be easier and more pleased to talk to every theist that calls in. There are a few things I hate more than smug, contrarian prick atheists that wind up making all the rest of us look bad.
And who talk over you. The number again, 720-619-2288. We do have open lines. Call now, 720-619-2288. There's also a link in the description if you are trying to call from overseas or you want to call from a computer because you have better audio that way or whatever. All of those are down below. And we want to hear from you. So next call we have is also, if you haven't already, share this out, and you can also send the link to people or the just let them know, hey, right now you are a theist who I know, and I'd really love to see you take these guys on. I think you could do it. I think you could beat them. You could send the show to your theist friends that you would like to see have a conversation with us. We're going to talk next to Arlindo in the United Kingdom. Arlindo, you are on the line.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Yeah?
Sure do.
How's it going?
Just fine.
I mean, I like it when you guys beat people up. It's like listening to the Jerry Springer show.
I think not quite, but all right. Go on. Yeah, go on.
Not quite. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I was going to say, look, unfortunately, I engaged with Perfect Hour before I saw your message, Jimmy. Last Sunday, you urged people not to engage with him until he takes down your content. I did try to call last week just before Val, but it was too late, as at that stage you were only taking theist or third option calls according to the poll.
Sure.
But I do think you'll be interested to know what he's been saying about you during our interaction.
Sure. Since you're here to tell me, sure. But if someone told me he's talking about me, I wouldn't go and seek it out. I have very little care when it comes to that person.
I see. I'll tell you what. Can I just go into the Dawkins scale? I'd like some clarification from Matt on the Dawkins scale. I believe I heard you say, Matt, that the scale is epistemologically broken. Yeah, I got my words out there. So if I remember correctly, there is an option there for sitting on the fence agnosticism, where the existence and non-existence of God are deemed to be equiprobable. I believe is the word used by Dawkins, which differs from de facto atheism, which asserts that God is extremely unlikely, so it makes sense to live as though he doesn't exist until proved otherwise, which is the position I take. What I'm confused about is why you think the scale is broken. I understand agnosticism is an untenable position. It's not equiprobable regarding God. And if agnostics do their homework, they realize that. But people still identify with it just as they identify as theist, which is just as untenable. So why is the entire scale broken? Because one label, but not the other.
Because it's broken. Yeah. It's broken because it includes theism and agnosticism. Right,
and agnosticism is also a disbelief practice. I can see it's dimorphic. Right. Okay.
Theism addresses belief. Gnosticism addresses knowledge. Knowledge is a subset of belief. The scale tries to incorporate both of them.
Right. I see. I didn't think of it like that, to be honest.
Yeah, when it says, sense, actually. Where are you on this scale? Oh, well, okay, I'm an agnostic. Well, that didn't answer the question. And to begin by pretending that there could be a 50% middle ground and that it deserves its own label, et cetera. It's just It's Dawkins' scale is a good attempt to describe what generally people probably mean and think at large when discussing the issue, because it tries to address both prongs. It tries to so in propositional logic, we evaluate a single proposition, and therefore you would evaluate the proposition some God exists, or you would evaluate the proposition no God exists. You would not evaluate both propositions. That's just not what you do. And his scale attempts to do exactly that.
I feel dumb. Well, it's only a 98% chimp on the other end of the line, and I've got a shit nugget anyway. To be honest.
So let me clear this up. Dawkins scale, for those who aren't familiar, is like I think it's like from 1 to 7, and what he has on one end is theism with absolute confidence at like a 1, or maybe that's a 7. I don't know which one. Yeah, I think it's 1 is the theism with absolute confidence, and 7 is atheism, strong atheism, the being convinced there is no God with absolute confidence. And right in the middle at number 4, he puts agnosticism. So he creates a scale that addresses what it addresses are 2 separate propositions. Some God exists, no God exists. Those are the proper ends of that scale. But what you believe about individual propositions is independent. One could not believe the theistic proposition, and one could not believe the strong atheistic proposition. And that's why it's like saying, hey, what do you believe about this defendant? Are you convinced this defendant is innocent? Are you convinced this defendant is guilty? Or are you right in the middle? Well, you can do that. You can make a scale like that to show where you are between 2 separate propositions. But in a courtroom, and when we're evaluating things to determine if we have evidential warrant to accept a proposition, we only look at one proposition. And in the case of the courtroom, it's, are you convinced of guilt? And anything short of being convinced of guilt is a not guilty verdict, which doesn't mean that you're convinced of innocence.
Yeah. That clears things up. I mean, thank you very much for that clarification. Because
sure.
I wasn't. It's like I couldn't see it before, but that makes sense now.
The thing to remember.
I'll tell you what. To quote someone.
The thing to remember is that Richard's a scientist. He's not a philosopher. He's not a logician. He doesn't have any expertise in that area at all. Yeah. He's not a debater. He's a science and a proper scientist, a great one, and a science popularizer, a great one. But he's speaking kind of colloquially as the average person there, although Richard, I wouldn't put him in the average person category for most anything, but this is the way most people look at it. It's like, oh, you're either convinced that God exists or you're convinced that God doesn't exist. And then there has to be a middle ground. And yes, all of that is true, except for the part where it says you're either convinced that God exists or you're convinced God doesn't exist. And that's not the accurate part.
Yeah. I do think that scientists sometimes can sound confusing with the language they use. A bit like Einstein saying, using the word God, poetically or whatever, but people then take it to mean, they take it literally. Like, oh, look, there's a scientist who believes in God, but really, he wasn't talking about a personal God when he used that word. But yeah, it can confuse a lot of people.
I tell you,
it's a shame, isn't it?
I know you've got other questions, and happy to get to them. I can't tell you how annoying it is to have someone march out, write a book that sells millions of copies, and then have everybody run around saying, ooh, where are you on the Dawkins scale? Where are you on the Dawkins scale? Where are you on the Dawkins scale? I'm not on it because I understand propositional logic.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. I tell you what, I don't know if you guys want to talk about perfect dawah, I mean, I'm quite happy.
You can go ahead and tell us what he
you
said.
know.
Like I said, since you're here, I'll hear it, but I wouldn't go look for it.
Sure. Well, after seeing your tweet, Jimmy, about the perfect hour, I decided to check his YouTube channel where he posted a clip of his call to the line, and I found him practically pilloried by the majority of comments. I commented on a thread started by someone else, you know, to point out, you know, his moon split prediction wouldn't be sufficient to demonstrate the existence of God, nor the truth of Islam. And he replied by saying that my post only demonstrates that me and Matt are the most irrational people on earth, and that Jimmy understood him and agreed that one would have to convert to Islam after the demonstration. You know, I explained to him that predicting the moon split wouldn't make me go, oh, there must be a God. But I'd probably be like, how the fuck did he do it? And, you know, as impressive as the moon split might be, scientists and skeptics would have to rule out a slew of possible mundane explanations before even considering the God hypothesis. You know, I even told him to study Hume, you know, because it wouldn't be the first time that a dishonest individual makes a discovery ahead of everyone and passes it off as supernatural in order to trick the world.
Is there a chance he was referring to a different Jimmy, or sure? I don't recall. Have I spoken to Dawa ever?
No, you did, yeah, because he called the show.
I see.
And he was definitely referring to you because he posted your content on his channel, and you know he.
Oh, right. Yeah, you're right. He called.
Yeah. So he basically, what did he say?
I imagine that he changed my position, because I can recall in somebody's conversation saying, in your hypothetical, first show me something like, I don't remember if it was the split moon, but show me a split moon and we'll start that conversation. But we don't have anything like that, which isn't the same to say if there was a split moon, as I've made this clarification on the resurrection a bunch of times. And most of the you get all of the miracles in the Bible, you confirm all of them, you still haven't proven the existence of God or that Jesus was the Son of God.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know what he was on about.
Someone called him a liar.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone called him a liar. And he replied, but where did I lie? And I pointed out that, you know, he lied about you agreeing with him. I said, look, Jimmy would probably find the moon split prediction somewhat compelling, but that doesn't mean he would conclude that God exists. You know, I remember you saying that you would suspend your skepticism and convert, which, you know, perhaps it was the best thing to say to someone like...
If that's the time he's referring to, then it was the same thing I just said, but almost in a tongue-in-cheek way, where I went, cool, show me the moon and I'll the moon splitting, and I'll just go ahead and suspend my skepticism and convert now. Because I knew that wasn't an actual issue, but that was the question. I was not advocating that you should actually ever suspend your skepticism. It was a very tongue-in-cheek way of addressing, if it's now the call that roughly is popping in my head.
It's very difficult.
I did. It is very difficult. I did say to him, look, he probably said it in the spirit of giving you the benefit of the doubt. I actually took screenshots of it because I had the feeling that he was going to erase this whole thread that someone else started, and he did. But I took screenshots of it and I posted it on my Twitter page. And and he basically twisted what you said, Jimmy. And made it sound like you were definitely on his side against Matt.
I'll hide my surprise.
What I was going to say is that it's very difficult to deal with people who are this delusional.
Yeah.
I've done a bunch of debates, and the guys over at Modern Day Debates will be like, hey, you want to debate this Muslim? And I don't investigate them to see who they are or what they know, because the person is irrelevant. They're either going to make good arguments or they're not. Perfect Dawa is someone who, if they weren't so divorced from reality, I mean, to be honest, I've said this before, so might as well say it again. The Muslim apologists that I have engaged with are amongst the most confused, irrational, divorced from reality people I've ever had to engage with on they are a step below the average Christian apologist that I engage with. And the average Christian apologist is pretty fucking bad. There are some exceptionally good Christian apologists, but then there's the other ones who are like, look at the trees. And I have yet to meet a Muslim apologist or engage with one that can present an argument backed with evidence and show any understanding of reality. I would love, like we're starting NBOSS. I would love to get Muslim apologists to apply. If you're a Muslim apologist out there and you think you have a good argument for
Wrong one. Sorry.
For Islam or anything like that, you can go apply. And NBOSS is set up to give you absolutely the best opportunity ever. You're going to be able to come in, speak for 10 minutes straight to present your case uninterrupted, assuming you're not, saying a bunch of racist or awful things like that. And then there'll be a clarification period where we ask a couple questions to make sure we understand it. Then you take questions from the audience, which is kind of your gauntlet. And then you face the NBOSS for a few minutes, and then you get the last word. It is absolutely set up to counter everything that theists have complained about, except for one, about trying to call into the show. And that is that the big one, they don't think we're going to give them equal time or treat them fairly or anything else. This is what it's for. Now, I would love for Muslim apologists to apply for this, but Perfect Dawa isn't one of them, because this individual, and this is probably the last I'll say about him, I'm not qualified, and nobody should be making armchair diagnoses about other people's psychological state. You just shouldn't. Yeah. However, we all do it. That person is unhinged. That person is somewhere on the spectrum. That person is irrational. That person is, and we have to be able to do it somewhat, because you want to be able to spot, like if your friend or your partner is suffering from, depression or delusions or anything like that, you have to be able to at least get the ball rolling to stuff. I don't think I've sat down with too many people who were more divorced from reality than at least two of the Muslim apologists I've recently debated, including Perfect Dawa. Yep.
Well, according to Perfect Dawa, he's got all the experience he needs because he's debated with you, Matt. So,
I know.
I haven't debated anyone, and I reckon I can take him on. But
anybody could take him on.
I tend to go by, a saying, lower your intellectual expectations of me to zero, and then I'll impress you. Someone wise said that.
Years ago, there was a guy who would call in all the call-in shows, and he would argue with everybody he could on Twitter. And he went by Master Apologist and had a similar level of delusion. And he would share things like, my current debate record is 600 wins to 0 losses. Meanwhile, every time he would call in, he would very quickly become rather submissive. And especially if Shannon was on for whatever reason. It's there's different levels of delusion, and Dawa seems to potentially have multiple, not just in what he believes, but also in his own. He seems delusional about his own assessment of his performance, because he is not a particularly as Arlindo. I don't know what your full debate skills are, but I suspect that a person with much less than any of the three of us in experience debating could take Perfect Dawa.
I did my best, but in the end, I just came away from it annoyed, and he deleted the whole thread. So I find that very dishonest anyway. Like he was trying to hide something, but that's him,
Yeah, sure. All right, cool.
I think I've gone on for some time now, isn't it?
Yeah, no worries, Arlindo. Have a good one.
Yeah,
thanks for calling. Go ahead. If you've got something left before we move on.
Yeah, okay. I'll tell you what. I've got a few Portuguese words for you.
Sure.
Jimmy, vai te foder. And Matt, here's an annoying farewell for you. God bless.
Arlindo, pau de queijo is my favorite Portuguese phrase. Anyway, have a good one. I don't know if Arlindo knows.
You too. Take care, guys.
Sure. I don't know if Arlindo or anybody else speaks Portuguese, but pão de queijo is a type of cheese bread, and it's awesome. It's my favorite thing to go to. Brazilian restaurants, especially for which line was that one? All right, so we're gonna we've got now several calls lining up, but they're waiting to be screened here. But we've got Mark waiting from Oakland. Mark in Oakland, you are on the line.
Hey, howdy guys.
Howdy. How are you?
I'm a little nervous.
Yeah, no worries.
I got a little confrontation coming up with my mom tomorrow. I went to church with her on Easter Sunday last week, and it was the first time that I realized that the church she started going to recently is really backwards. Pastor was just volatile and blatantly irresponsible with saying things like, we don't have a homeless problem, we have a drug problem. It's all the cliche crap that spews more hatred than anything. It was really divisive, and I was really surprised that she was going along with that kind of stuff. She's always been a really kind person, and we have a great relationship. But it was really scary seeing her just kind of nod along to a lot of this stuff. And I'm going to have to have a real serious conversation with her tomorrow, but keep going over it in my head, and I keep getting so fired up in defense of, my trans and gay friends, and, I'm not exactly sure what angle to take. I feel like I'm just going to start shouting and blow it. You have any thoughts?
First of all, I want to make sure you're not missing time. You said you went to your mom's church for Easter last week, but Easter was last month, like a month and a half ago.
It was last week. I don't know why I was thinking it was Easter. Shows me how much I care about it.
Right, because that's about how often you're likely to go to church.
Yeah.
So, wow, this is going to be difficult because if there's not some demonstrable harm that you can identify that your mother has befallen because of this church, I'm not sure there's anything you really can or should do apart from letting her know that you have concerns about the church. And I don't know your mom, so I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think she would be. I think she'd be open to hearing me out. But yeah, I guess she's in a very insulated small town, and you're probably right. It's pretty easy to talk about these subjects that you don't know when you don't really know anybody that are affected by those issues. But I think I can probably be an example in that way. I mean, hell, I'm planning on coming out to her in that moment as a way of showing her, like, I've always been scared, to be honest, about that. Because
I think the big thing. I don't know your mom, and I don't know your life, but I think the big thing is to say, Mom, I love you. I don't want this to come between us, but I have some concerns and I have some stuff I'd like to share. And I don't want to freak you out, but I want to be honest with you, and I want you to know who I am. And I'm, you may find, and this is unlikely that it'll happen this way right off the bat, you may find that your mom has concerns of her own, or that you merely expressing concerns will encourage her to address things she may not have been addressing, or it could go horribly wrong. She could kick you out of her life, and you are now the spawn of Satan. Don't ever contact me again. I went to both the extremes there, or pretty close to the extremes, because the point I'm trying to make is you have to make the decision about what kind of relationship you want with your mom. Do you want it to be open and honest where she knows who you are, you know who she is, you guys know what each other believes, you guys know what your objections and problems are with how you're living your lives? Or would you rather just keep it surface level? For example, I don't talk to my mom about anything that isn't pedestrian. We don't discuss politics anymore. We don't discuss religion anymore. It's how's your health? How's the weather? That's it. I would rather have that relationship with my mom than no relationship. But only by just a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm confident that she's going to take it seriously because I think she takes me seriously. Well, I appreciate that. I think it's just scary. And it was nice to hear some words of encouragement because you're right. Yeah, we got to be honest about who I am, and this is too important to ignore.
Well, I'm interested in hearing what the results are and how it goes, because we hear from a lot of people in situations like this, and some of them we hear back from saying, oh, it went better than expected. Some of them we hear back from and it did not go well, but most of them we don't ever hear back from. And so I'm curious, although not curious to the point of needing to be nosy.
No, it's fine. I'd call back in another week and let you know.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear as well. How long has your mother been at the specific church with the pastor that you were talking about? Do you know?
I think it's about 5 years now. Okay. She's gotten more involved with it over the last few. I get the sense that she's a very sociable person. I think she would prefer to be in a larger city like where I am, but just the way, life went, that's where she ended up. And I think this church provides her with that social space. And so obviously she gets a lot of benefit out of that.
Sure.
And I want to be careful not to attack that specifically. Because everybody needs a place for community.
Yeah, but it doesn't need to be church.
Yeah.
In fact, if anything, church weaponizes community and holds you in place to their shitty, because part of rejecting a religion or a specific congregation or whatever comes with community consequences. And that's something that these places, especially with these very charismatic preachers, rely on, that you will stay in line to keep your peers' approval. And it leads to a lot of hypocrisy, a lot of lying, and then also just a lot of people who otherwise wouldn't be evil people doing and saying evil things because they want to keep their community's approval.
Yeah. I've certainly heard plenty of stories where that checks out. It's kind of hard to tell. I haven't spent a lot of time at this place, but I hear you.
Yeah. Well, Mark, we appreciate the call. Follow up. Let us know or send us an email. Let us know what went down.
Yeah, we'll do. Thanks, y'all. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Mark.
All right. Bye.
Later.
I mean,
yeah,
usually, okay. Yeah. Antonio in Las Vegas, before the call begins, I want to let you know that every Thursday on this channel, there is a show called the Transatlantic Call-In Show where you can talk to real life trans people, one of which this week is a doctor, and then the other a very knowledgeable activist. And you can talk to actual trans people about trans issues with trans people, talk about them with them. But
it's a very great show.
Yeah. Thank you. So you have a question though for us today. We're going to take it quickly because it is off topic. Go ahead.
Oh, my apologies.
No worries.
So my question is, are men who date trans women gay men?
Are men who date masculine women gay men?
No.
Why not?
Well, let's say sexually, the things they want to do with a woman, they can do.
How do you know that? So, okay, wait. It's then how about a man who is sexually attracted to a masculine woman and wants to be pegged by her?
Is he gay?
Correct.
No.
So,
Okay. But you're also assuming when Jimmy said woman, Jimmy didn't specify cis woman or trans woman. So
That's
you
true.
answered your own question. If a man dates a trans woman, that does not mean he's gay. Could be gay, could be bi, could be pan, could be straight. That's not enough information. Like for example, bi and pan people might date someone who's a man, who's a woman, who's neither. But taking your question at kind of the face value, it seems to be that what you're saying is, if a man is engaged in a romantic relationship with a trans woman, what does that say about that person's sexuality? And the answer is, it doesn't, on its own, it doesn't tell you anything about that person's sexuality, because somebody could be, I don't really find the labels gay, straight, trans, bi, pan, I don't really find them that useful. You're attracted to whomever you're attracted to for whatever reasons at different times. I have people tell me I'm gay. And what strikes me is really funny about that. Matter of fact, it just happened on Twitter a week or two ago, where there was some argument where somebody was saying something. They were trying to bring up my partner, and his reply at the end of it, when he couldn't say anything else, was, "Oh, well, you're gay, homie," and it just makes me laugh, because first of all, does anybody think for a second that if I were gay or bi or pan, that I would have any problem saying so? I mean, isn't the mere fact that I've been in a committed, serious relationship for 2 years next month with a trans woman,
Congrats.
do you think I'm going to get more shit for dating a trans woman than I would be if I was dating Jimmy? I mean, there's a big difference there. And one of them is more likely to suggest that I might be gay than the other. The other one has nothing to do with it. And so what we find is that a lot of and I know I'm not saying this is you, Antonio, I get it, you're just asking a question. A lot of the trying to put a label on it is actually homophobic fears in a very thin disguise. It's the same thing of, the same way that person was like, "Oh, you're gay, homie." It's a product of toxic masculinity to label homosexuals as gay or in pejorative senses, and then for anything that might be questionable, or put someone in a position where that's not the way my sexuality works, I need to label that. Let me label it with the one that I put all. Gay basically ends up being a bucket for all the people who do things sexually that this other person doesn't like, or that they don't think is masculine enough or manly enough or whatever else. And I don't care. I have no idea. I've never been attracted to men. Hang on, I'm still talking. I've never been attracted to men, but if I were, that would definitely make me pan or bi, and not just gay, because I'm definitely attracted to women. But go ahead.
Okay. Well, my question is like, so you're attracted to women, but let's say you were just attracted to trans women.
How do you know
gay
that? I'm confused, because you are attracted to someone before you know if they're cis or trans.
Yes, like somebody who's attracted to somebody who
your question,
Asian or black.
No, your question's a non sequitur, because if I'm attracted to someone before I know they're cis or trans, then clearly I'm not merely attracted to trans women or cis women.
Yeah, I wonder, Antonio, if maybe all of your questions will be answered by my clarification on the questions that I was asking. And I was a little surprised that you just gave yes or no's back. Weren't meant to be just like, it's, look, here's a question and here are what the rules are. The point of the questions was to point out that gay or straight for a person is not actually based on their behaviors. It's based on their identity. So if a person feels gay and they've told and on their understanding of what that would mean, and they've discussed that with their partner and stuff, that's the person who's gay. However, so usually you can get a straight yes answer. If I say to a person, like, if a man has sex with another man consensually, is he gay? or at least
Yeah.
gay. And someone's going to usually say yes. However, you can, in full consent, I could be a straight man who goes, maybe I don't have as many hangups about this. I don't feel like it will undermine my masculinity or my straightness to try it, to see. People experiment with sexual stuff all the time that they end up not being interested in. And so there are plenty of straight men out there and plenty of straight women out there who have tried gay, quote unquote, experiences. But despite the fact that the act you could say they were doing is gay, and in the example of being pegged by a masculine woman, and I'll further clarify masculine cis woman, you could even say that maybe that act, if you're going to define an act, leans more gay. Whether the person is gay or not is relative to their experience, their feelings, and what they're doing with that those experiences and how they're letting it identify them. So
that makes
sense.
Okay,
go ahead.
Yeah, it's actions aren't gay. People are.
Well, I know. That's my whole point. So was my definition of what gay actually was a biological male who was attracted to a biological male.
That's a terrible definition.
Yeah.
Well, I know it's more nuanced, but what I mean is like if
it's not just a matter of nuance. It's not just a matter of nuance, Antonio. Biological male is a problematic phrase that doesn't mean anything.
Well, this is just a class. I mean, it's just a description, really, like for what science sees. It's just saying.
No. Stop. Let's do this right. Define as succinctly as you can biological male.
Biological male. Certain type of chromosomes. I know there are people who have different, they can have, there's X, Y, and whatever.
We can stop there. We can stop there.
Yeah.
We can stop there.
Okay.
What are my chromosomes?
I can assume them, but
no, you can't
be assuming. But
you'd be assuming. Okay. Has there ever been a single point in the history of the world where someone has found themselves sexually attracted to someone else because of their chromosomes?
Not attracted, but definitely because maybe of how they were raised.
No. You don't know what somebody's chromosomes are. You don't know what someone's chromosomes are, so you can't possibly be attracted to them based on their chromosomes. So already at the outset, you defined biological male as having certain chromosomes. You didn't know which ones. Cool. But you don't know what somebody's chromosomes are. You don't even know what's in somebody's pants. So you can't say, oh, I'm attracted to penises or I'm not attracted to penises, because you don't get to know what's in somebody's pants. And you don't have a right to know anybody's genitals. You don't have a right to know anybody's medical history, and you don't have a right to know anybody's chromosomes. So how on earth could you ever be attracted to people if your attraction is based on chromosomes?
Well, like I said, your attraction, maybe not so much. But what I mean is, like I said, because of society, if you got the new information that even though you are very attracted to this person, that you find out that they're a biological male, there are males.
Stop.
All right.
You've already fucked up. You said, even though you are attracted to this person, you find out that they're not who you thought they were. So basically, the new information is you made an assumption that was flawed, but you were already actually attracted to this person. It's not the person that you became unattracted to. It's when you found out about a reality that doesn't match your own delusion. That has nothing to do with biology, biological, or male. It is you made an assumption about another person. You acted, you felt a certain way, and when you found out your assumption was wrong, then you're trying to frame this as that's in opposition to what is biologically male. That's not the way this works.
Well, no, I'm just saying it comes down to individual choice.
Stop, Antonio, stop.
Oh, man.
You don't.
Okay.
When you find yourself attracted to someone, do you know what their chromosomes are?
I don't know, but I am hoping how they represent themselves in a certain way.
Why are you hoping what their chromosomes are when you don't even fucking know what they are?
Because first off, you have to go off of attraction. We don't know them as a person. And then, we are, as me, cis straight guy, I want a relationship with a person. I also want kids with that person. And since this, I know trans have been here forever.
Antonio, hang on. You're just going on. Antonio, if you saw a woman and she was a cis woman and you were attracted to her and she was willing to date you and you started dating for a while and then she told you, by the way, I can't actually have children. I've got, PCOS or whatever. Would that affect your attraction to her?
Not my attraction, but what
exactly,
would you say?
Not your attraction. It wouldn't affect your attraction. No, Antonio, you don't need to explain.
We just agreed with you. You just fucking nutted all over yourself and proved yourself wrong.
Whether or not you would then end the relationship also doesn't matter based on that. Your attraction is still there, defiant of whatever other qualifying factors. So if you're worried that what we're saying is no, you are still straight, and you as a straight man go, but I don't want, if I now take on the straight label, that means I have to date trans women. No one is saying that. Now, your hangups on dating trans women, we're probably going to have issues with, but it's an entirely separate issue. No one is mandating that cis straight men date trans women.
No, there's not.
There isn't. There's literally not.
We were talking about
I was going to give you my reason.
No. Your reasons for what? You just said, hang on, let me finish the question. Your reasons for what? Because you said you were attracted to someone and then you found out that they couldn't have kids and you were still attracted to them. I don't need a reason for that. That's the way it works. Attraction doesn't change over that. Now you might end a relationship because you're specifically looking for kids, but that's true whether you're dating a cis woman who can't get pregnant or a trans woman who can't get pregnant. You are saying that with a cis woman who can't have kids, your attraction remains, but a trans woman who you were attracted to, when you find out that they can't have kids, your attraction goes away, and that's a fucking lie.
Well, here's what I'm saying. Let me explain.
That's a lie. Acknowledge that it's a lie.
It's a lie. I acknowledge that. Which part am I lying about? Exactly.
You're lying that the attraction goes away.
Oh, no. The attraction is still there. Here's what I'm saying. When you first meet somebody, you see them, there's the attraction first. Whether they're trans or cis.
Hang on. I'm going to pause you for a second. I don't need a lecture for you on attraction. You got it wrong, and you called us. I want us to stay on the actual topic, okay?
He grasped the point for a second.
You were concerned that someone who dates a trans woman gay. By definition, if gay is someone who dates someone of their own gender, which that's not the definition, but if you were to use that, then the answer is no. We've already acknowledged that you can be attracted to someone, whether they're cis or trans, because what you're attracted to isn't the chromosomes that you tried to point to, or the gametes, or the genitalia, or any of the things that you don't have access to and don't know, but you're attracted to secondary sexual characteristics and how they carry themselves and how they present themselves. All the things that go together to form the social construct. What other point did you want to make?
Sorry, there was a beep. What was that last word you said there?
What was the point that you were wanting to make?
Okay, because here's all right. I'll just do it straight. For me, trans, whatever, it doesn't really matter. I take people as people, but when it comes to the reason why, I left my face because I want to know the more true things. So basically, faith to me is disgusting and dishonest. So when somebody says trans women are women, it's like, okay, sure, show me some evidence, and then we I just add it to the whatever knowledge I have. So, but it seems like if you can't prove it, then you're expecting me to take it on faith, which makes it hard.
Oh my God, Antonio,
okay,
stop talking.
All right,
because you called in with are men that date trans women gay, which we already addressed. Then you went off on a side note about attraction, which we already addressed. And now you're suggesting that you're willing to accept that trans women are women, but it seems to be a tenet of faith. No, it's not a tenet of faith. Any more than if someone tells you they're left-handed, do you take that on faith?
Yes, because it's not as important.
Go fuck yourself. I have zero interest in having conversations with people who are going to argue dishonestly. If you're going to sit there and say that you care about the truth and that you're not going to take things on faith, and then when I ask you if you're going to take something about someone's identity, like left-handedness, take that on faith, and you say, oh yeah, I'm willing to take that on faith because it's not that important, go fuck yourself, because you're being dishonest.
That's important.
I said go fuck yourself. I'm still talking. You don't get to talk anymore for the rest of the show. You get to sit here and listen to me, and then I will hang up. Because I want to have conversations with people who are going to engage honestly. And you went from, hey, are men who date trans women gay? And we had a big, long discussion about that. Then eventually you get down to, oh, well, I don't want to take things on faith. And then it turns out you're a fucking liar because you're willing to take other things on faith that aren't important. Whether someone is cis or trans is none of your fucking business. You don't have a right to know. You don't have a need to know. And what you're attracted to or not attracted to is completely independent of whether or not they're cis or trans. Go, grow up, stop using the fact that you don't have access to someone's inner thoughts as an excuse to not treat them with dignity. Trans women are women. It's right there in the name, women. Cis women, trans women. Cis and trans are adjectives. They are women. Well, by that, we mean we're talking about a social construct, period. Goodbye.
I wouldn't have minded to know what Antonio's definition of faith even was, because what a ridiculous thing to say. And then we had this earlier this week. We had Lux on with Arden this last Thursday on the Transatlantic Call-In show. And Lux had used a phrase called weaponizing your incompetence to refer to a person who's acting as though like, I'm here for you to tell me all of the studies I need to know, to tell me all of the, and cite them now. And there was vibes of that sort of thing too, where it's like, these aren't hard things to Google. If you think there isn't evidence for this, you're the problem. You act as though you're actually interested in the conversation, but you seem to be only interested in the side that you already fall down on. You seem to only want to hear the information that defies you're trying to exist in this. I had an initial reaction to the revelation that trans people exist of X, and I would like X to maintain. So I'm going to go the confirmation bias route, and I'm going to ask people and see if they can answer to my satisfaction, even as I'm doing all of these games and playing with all of these terms, instead of just Googling this shit. And then I'm going to call a show about theism and ask the host, one of which is pansexual, the other which is a straight man or I don't know if you're questioning that, but straight and dating a trans woman. I'm going to call them instead of the trans show on Thursday, and did acknowledge I know about the trans show on Thursday at the beginning. So I don't know.
Great show.
Yeah, amazing show.
So Antonio can't fool me. Antonio called in today to ask if men who date trans women are gay, because I'm a man who's dating a trans woman. And for whatever reason, Antonio's a fucking busybody who thinks that everything is his business. And I get it. I understand, Antonio. There's a lot of people out there that when they look at me, they desperately want to know everything about my life. And so when they see me in a relationship with someone and it doesn't make sense with their cisgender, heteronormative, bigoted, tiny box that they put themselves into, they're wondering, oh, who does what to who and when and how and all that other stuff. And I'm not going to go into all that, Antonio, other than to say my penis has never been in an ass because it's too fucking big.
That's a weird way to end it.
I just wanted to do something funny to kind of put a capper on it, but it probably. Let's get back to God talk.
I was just going to say, Antonio, calling into a call-in show to ask if dating trans women is gay, that's actually gay. So you are gay, Antonio. Yeah. The thing you were worried about, you are. Jesus Christ. Anyway, let's move on. Didn't mean to hit that. We're definitely not. Mark from Oakland wasn't the problem. It was somebody else. I was going to say, we're definitely not going back to. We've got Damien from Michigan. You are on the line.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing swell. How are you guys doing today?
Tremendous. What are you calling about?
I just want to know if there is any scientific explanation for the what I would consider prophetic dreams I have had.
You want to know if there's scientific basis for prophetic, as
Or
in,
well, scientific explanation more than basis. But
and I think you probably more mean a natural or materialistic, not that they actually did the whole hypothesis to theory thing. But okay, so you have prophetic dreams. You believe you've had prophetic dreams that you thought of something that would happen in the future in a dream, and then it happened, and you want to know whether or not, quote unquote, science can explain that.
Yes, and can you explain what they were first?
Well, dreams are just dreams.
So,
what do you mean?
Well, I just want to explain what my prophetic dreams actually were, because
promptly, if you could.
They were extremely mundane. It was basically, I dreamed about what my next job was. There was one, and I've had them months in advance, which just seems really weird to me. Like, for example, I dreamed I was behind a counter serving a customer, and then I worked at a restaurant as a cashier. And then another dream I had is that
wait. Hang on, don't jump to the next dream yet. So your prophetic dream was you working behind a counter in a restaurant and serving a customer. And presumably what you're now telling me is you do now, or then after, ended up working in a restaurant behind a counter.
Yes.
Okay. So you understand that that's not a prophetic dream, right?
I did not think of it that way. Okay.
Okay, because you live in a country where restaurants working in a restaurant is a common occupation. It's a thing that you're aware of. You had the dream, and then at some point needed employment, and this thing that was a consistent element enough in your mind to dream about was also a consistent element in your mind to apply to a job for, correct?
I think I understand what you're saying.
Cool. First, I feel like that's the first prophecy explained away easily. Because I mean, it's almost like if I said I had a dream last night that I drove my car and then I ended up driving my car. These are very mundane things. So go ahead, and if you have can we just go with the best example, the one that's going to be like, poof, that one's tough.
I honestly don't have any other ones, but all of mine are kind of the same thing. So I guess I guess you've answered my question.
Wait,
I'm sorry.
So you called in to talk about prophetic dreams, and you only have the one?
I have a couple. Well, they're all very similar. So they're all all of them were. After I got unemployed from a job, I had a dream about my next job. That was it. I'm sorry.
No,
so
don't apologize.
I got questions. You've been. Are you saying you've been unemployed several times, and each time you're unemployed, you have a dream about the next job?
Somehow, yes.
Okay. Without going through your entire.
It might just be a coincidence. Okay.
Without going through your entire work history, had you ever worked behind a counter before?
No.
Okay. So you had other jobs. You had a dream that you were going to work in a restaurant, and then you went out and applied for a job at a restaurant.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not prophecy. That's, hey, I got an idea in a dream, and then I brought it to fruition.
It's almost like the most basic form of quote unquote self-fulfilling prophecy.
I'm sorry I disappointed you guys.
No, Damien. I'm glad you called, because this is what we're trying to do, is explain. This isn't meant to be insulting you or roasting you. This is meant to be. I know that maybe because of the tone of the show prior, it doesn't sound any different. I'm autistic.
Yeah,
I have one tone of voice. We want you to engage in skepticism, right?
Yes.
And skepticism, I'm going to go, okay, I've had a dream. I had a dream that I work at a restaurant. Maybe I even had a dream that I work at a specific restaurant. And then I applied and I got the job. What is the explanation there? Is the most likely explanation that I was prescient? or not prescient. That's not the right word. That I was that I was psychic. That I could see the future. Wait, was prescient the right word? Am I fucking this up?
Prescient is exactly the right word.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, sorry for everyone just heard my Amazon notification. That I'm prescient.
Yeah,
That I know what's going to happen. I know what's coming, or that I had a dream and then that dream maybe even influenced me to apply for that job, or. And Damien, have you also kept track of all of the dreams that you had that didn't come true?
Not all of them.
No.
Not all of them.
No, I'm saying, have you kept track of any of the ones that were you in your life supposed to be in the future doing something that then didn't come true?
No.
Exactly. So you've got this sample of this thing seems significant. I had the dream and then it happened. And I get it. I get why that feels significant, but it doesn't take a lot. And so just engaging in that skepticism is what I'm trying to encourage you to do. I'm not trying to roast you or beat you into the ground. And I'm trying to make sure other people listening who go like, yeah, I kind of do that too. Like I dream a ton, by the way, Damien. I seriously, like, I can remember 3 or 4 dreams a night, which means I'm probably having like 20 a night. I dream thanks. If I just added up and then some version of those things actually happened in my real life, I would look very prescient, especially if I ignored all of the times that the stuff didn't happen. Because shortly after going go-karting with Matt and Arden, I ended up having go-kart related dreams, but I was go-karting with like celebrities. And Jack Black's not showing up to go-kart with me. If he ever does, I'll reassess.
All right.
Cool. All right, Damien?
Yeah. The
Awesome.
main reason why I thought they were prophetic is because I felt a feeling of deja vu at a certain point during my job. So
Sure.
I guess that's more coincidental than anything else.
No, deja vu is fascinating, and I highly recommend you research it. There's varying hypotheses, though I think the current theory, I think there is actually a current theory that is escalated beyond that they're pretty confident in. If I'm remembering correctly, deja vu is the feeling of deja vu is something that we then fill in and go, oh, what must this be? And what must it be from? And so you go and you fill in, I'm at work and I had a dream about work, when in reality, the thing that actually triggered the deja vu seems to be, if I'm remembering correctly, that you have input coming in one eye and input from another, and your brain just does a little glitch and you end up processing the sight of your two eyes slightly off time from each other. And that little blip causes you this sensation of, I've seen this before, or I've experienced this before. And then your brain goes to work to fill in why you've done that. And that's where the why we have this idea that deja vu is memory related.
I was not aware of that.
Thank you for teaching me something.
Check all of that, because I might have been telling you one of the hypotheses and not the correct one that's been escalated to like, we're pretty sure this is it. Yes, but I'm just telling, so I'm clarifying, I'm 90% sure I gave you the right one.
All right.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Damien.
Yep. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought we were done.
No, yeah.
I'm just excited for this call because it could go so many different ways. We're our first theist by their definition or whatever of the day.
Not.
We've got Gabriel in Canada. Gabriel, you're on the line.
Hey, how's it going?
Go ahead. Yeah, it's going. You've got a claim you want to make. Do you want to just make it in the same way that you've set it to the screener, or do you want to give some sort of longer introduction?
Sure. Yeah, maybe a longer introduction. The thing that I wrote down probably isn't the best representation of what I do want to say. I'm more curious as to yours and Matt's position, going off of, I guess, the latter bit of what Antonio was saying on like the transgender evidence. It seems to me as though there's a claim that's being made without sufficient evidence being presented to back up the claim, much in a similar way that some theists make claims that there is a God without being able to present what some people deem sufficient evidence. And so I'd like to know, like, to me, when I hear your and Matt's positions, granted, I haven't heard it in perfect depth or anything, it just seems a bit inconsistent on that front.
Sure. What is the claim And in the notes, it had been, so the short version that it does sound like we're still on this. There is no evidence to back up the trans claim. Is that a decent summary? Okay.
And so, I'll just clarify that position. I guess what I mean by the trans claim is that, for example, I, as a biological man, could identify as a woman. I'm curious.
Well, okay,
to know,
that's
and I,
so let's do it again. Let's do it again, Gabriel. Because what you just said was the trans claim is that I, as a biological man, could identify as a woman. I, as a biological man, I literally could do it right now. I'm not actually a woman, therefore I could say it. I could do it. I wouldn't actually be trans. But your claim so far is not good because anybody could do that. So let's talk about the trans claim.
More precisely, I suppose what I mean is anybody could do that hypothetically. What is the evidence that validates that kind of claim? That's what I'm curious about. Because
what do you mean that validates
socially or culturally?
What do you mean? What do you mean? God damn. Hey, do you have any evidence to back up your theist position?
I have some. I think so. Sure.
Sure. Can we get to that?
Well, that wasn't the purpose of my call. That's what I told the call.
I didn't ask what the purpose of your call was. I didn't ask what see, here's the thing. I didn't ask what the purpose of your call was, and I didn't say we had to do it right now, and I didn't say we weren't going to address this claim. I just said, can we get to that? Why can't you answer the question that's being asked?
Oh, you want me to get to my beliefs?
I'm asking
my evidence
here,
for that.
Gabriel, when I say, can we get to that? I'm asking you if you're open to actually discussing and presenting that. I didn't say right now. I didn't say we weren't answering your question. My point in asking the question is that you're coming after something and you're not listening. So if you listen to what's actually being said instead of trying to inject your assumptions, which is what you did when I asked if we could get to your evidence for your God claim, if you'd have just answered the question, which like, yeah, we can get to that. Cool. I don't want to discuss that.
I misunderstood.
Yeah. And so here we go. You've also misunderstood.
Sure.
You've also misunderstood trans stuff. There's nothing that says that anybody, you could say you're a woman. I could say I'm a woman. Jimmy could say he's a woman. What you're asking for is, how do we know if someone's self-reported gender identity is true and accurate? Correct? Is that what you're asking?
Yes. And then okay. I guess the next question would be, well, what do we mean by
No,
true
don't
and
go
accurate?
to the next fucking... Jesus fucking Christ.
Relax, dude.
Bitch. Tell me to relax one more fucking time. I'm going to mute you and you're going to sit there and fucking listen. I'm trying to guide this conversation in a way that's productive for both of us. Answer the question you're asked and don't say, but the follow-up question is, because that tells me you're not listening, and that's the problem. It's the reason you're confused now is that you don't listen. The fact of the matter is that there's a number of sloppy different ways to express this. There's gender expression, gender identity, and gender identity is how one perceives their societal role, and not in a biological, chromosomal gamete way, but a societal role. The societal roles that we identified generally with stereotypes as man roles and woman roles. This is what happens with the identity. Then there's expression, which is I might identify as a woman, but I don't express myself as a woman. I might look exactly like this. I'm not really expressing the stereotypical norms for being a woman, but other people might be. And what you're wanting to do is say, hey, if someone is biologically seemingly, apparently like me, a cis man, and they say they're a woman, how do I know whether or not they're telling the truth? And the answer is, for just like it is for everything else that is a matter of self-expression and self-identity, you don't know because you can't read minds. And so for any individual, you have no way of telling if they're actually trans or not. And you know what? It's none of your fucking business. It doesn't matter to you. It shouldn't matter to you. You're not the arbiter of who gets to be categorized as truly trans or not. But when you get outside of individuals and you start assessing populations and you start doing medical studies, what we can find is that both with respect to gender dysphoria, which is a diagnosable part of transness. It's not required to be trans. But we know that there are people who, when treated, when validated, when treated correctly, when allowed to transition, they live better lives and they self-report better lives. They stop being as prone to killing themselves. In the same way that a doctor, which by the way, on Thursday, you can call in and talk to a real doctor who's really trans, who can give you more information on all these things. But in the same way that when someone says, hey, my arm hurts, you can't tell necessarily if they're faking it. Oh, you say, but I can put an MRI up to them and I can study them and see whether, yes, you can do that. And you know what else? We can do that with regard to a number of other issues as well. But the brain isn't open to everybody's scrutiny. So at the end of the day, the follow-up question is, you can't know ever whether someone is self-reporting a truth in their head or not, because you can't read minds. And so my follow-up question before we get on to anything else for you is, what difference should it make to you? What right do you have to know whether or not someone is really trans or to take any action based on that? Why does this matter to you? Why not just treat people the way they report it? Because we know that transness is a thing population-wise. Whether or not an individual fits in that category, you may not know. Why does it matter to you?
Because, for example, if I'm already married, but if I weren't, and I wanted to get married and I wanted to have children, it would be incumbent upon me to know whether or not my partner could have children.
No.
Not all biological women can have children, obviously.
Correct.
But
correct.
So
whether or not they're trans is irrelevant. None of your business. The question you might ask them, if you want to only partner with someone who can have kids, is, hey, can you have kids? And they may say yes, they may say no, and they may say I don't know. But with their transness is none of your business.
It would be so. Just so I can get this straight. And correct me if I'm misrepresenting. If I were to marry somebody, it would be none of my business that my partner was transgender. That's what you're saying?
Yes.
That's absurd, Matt.
That's a great counter argument, but it shows your bigotry and not that I'm wrong.
I can give you a counter argument, sure.
I wish you would have, because instead of giving a counter argument, what you said is that's absurd. It is somebody else's medical history is none of your business. Whether they're cis or trans is none of your business. How many partners they've had in the past is none of your business. What they like to do sexually with other people is none of your business. The only things that are your business are the things that are pertinent to your relationship with them. Whether or not they're trans is none of your business.
If I would say that if I was in a relationship with them, that would be pertinent information. If they were my wife, for example,
you may well and find yourself in a relationship with a trans person, and they might think that it's valuable enough information to share with you. But if they don't, you weren't owed that information. I asked you why it matters, and you went to, I want to make sure my partner can have kids. But you can't do that whether they're cis or trans. You have no guarantee. My ex-wife and I tried to have kids. Both of us were cis. That's not going to happen. She's still trying to have kids. I hope it works for her, but we're using science all the time. It doesn't happen. When I ask you why it matters to you whether or not somebody's trans, you went to what is ostensibly an intuitively reasonable objection. Hey, I want to have kids. And then when we point out that that's true, irrespective of whether they're cis or trans, which defeats your argument, your response was, that's absurd. Do you have some actual argument or evidence, or are you just a fucking busybody who thinks that you have a right to know somebody else's medical history? What right do you have to know whether or not I've had my appendix removed?
Sure, I can give more reasons as to why I wouldn't want.
You haven't given any, so one would be more.
Sure, fine. Here's another reason why people, I think, should know. For example,
no, it's not another reason why. It would be the first reason if it's in fact a reason.
However you would like to qualify it. If for sports, for example, I would think that it's pertinent information. If my daughter wanted to play sports, knowing that there is a biological male competing against her.
It's not. It's not. It's none of your business.
Well, it is. It is totally.
No,
your
it's
business
not.
Because that's
no, it's not your business. It's not your business, and stop using your daughter as a way to justify your bigotry. You don't get to know somebody else's medical history, period. You don't get to know what somebody's genitals are, period. You don't get to know what somebody's chromosomes are, period. Stop being a nosy busybody using your daughter as an excuse for your bigotry. It's really sad.
Okay, first, I don't understand why you're calling me a bigot simply because I have my own views. Like that,
because your views are bigoted. Do you think the KKK are bigots?
Yes, but their views are demonstrably bigoted.
But couldn't somebody from the KKK just say, "Why are you calling me a bigot just because I have views that don't agree with yours"? Couldn't somebody from the KKK say that?
Sure, they could say that, Matt.
Sure, they could. You ran way over your head, Gabriel. You were a bigot when you called into TACIS, and now I'm schooling you like the little bitch you are. What's your next objection to why you think you get to know what somebody's medical history is?
Matt, you're not schooling anybody. You have control over the phones, and so you use that to.
I don't just have control over the phones. I have control over this conversation, and I have control over the perception of you because you are a little bigot who showed your ass and let the thing. By the way, didn't you use the R slur the other day on TACIS? You're banned, bitch. Goodbye.
Yeah, and I'll use.
No, you won't use it again because I'm way fucking smarter and faster than you. You whiny little bigoted bitch.
Oh, that was. I like that he thought he was going to get it out again. And I'm going to use it again. If you're going to try and do something like that, maybe don't tell someone, I'm about to pull a gun out of my pocket and shoot you while you have a gun in your hand already. That's not really going to...
I'm armed.
Yeah. Yeah. I would have loved...
Gabriel's done here, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't allow the R slur on my show. When it came out on TACIS, I was really glad that Arden jumped on it as well. Yeah, you can sit up there and use your pretend daughter, because I can't believe anybody would actually have sex with you as an excuse for your bigotry. But I suppose you could have adopted. That's fair.
Sure.
No, I don't know. Okay, Gabriel could be an otherwise nice person with a good family and a wonderful daughter who I will feel sorry for years. Casually
throwing out the R slur at one autistic and another ADHD host, I would say actually no. Probably not an otherwise good person. And I'm not even talking about us. I'm talking about Lux and Arden. I wasn't referencing my own autism today.
Some people in chat didn't know what the R slur was. It's the word that ends in TARD. And I hate every version of it. When you say creatard, like a creationist, or anything along those lines, that's never going to fly. It is absolutely a vile pejorative that is used to diminish people with mental deficiencies. You know what's more embarrassing is not someone who was born with a mental defect that might prevent them from processing things correctly, but when someone who has a normative brain falls into bigotry to the point where they want to use that slur to belittle the people who probably understand this better than they do because they're different. Yeah, you're not using that word here. As a matter of fact, for Gabriel, don't bother calling back because you don't know how to argue. You don't know what evidence is. You aren't willing to accept people's self-reported positions that aren't, it's not like, oh, hey, I'm self-reporting that I watched aliens probe Jimmy's ear last night. Okay, that's a question about something that actually happened where there might be evidence for it, et cetera. But things that are entirely internal to somebody's thing. Oh, I'm left-handed. Are you really left-handed, or are you ambidextrous and you can write with your left hand too? How do you prove that? My right hand is my dominant hand. How do you prove that? By the way, that gets to the one point that I made over and over again. It doesn't matter. It's none of your business whether I'm left-handed, whether I'm right-handed, whether I'm ambidextrous. It doesn't matter whether I have a penis or a vagina. It doesn't matter what my chromosomes are. It doesn't matter what my gender identity is or my expression or anything else. I'm a human fucking being with rights. And one of those rights is the right to bodily autonomy and to individual sovereignty. And I'm not required to tell you anything about me. I don't care how much you might think it's unfair that your daughter's playing sports against my child.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a few things. One, I can already see the future comments and people who are going to totally straw man the things you've said. Nobody is suggesting that if you are preparing to have a consensual sexual relationship with a person, that a conversation about genitals will always be inappropriate. There are going to be people out there who, I know because of trauma, there are many people out there who are just like, I just can't see a dick. I can't do it. I'll lock up, I'll cry, I'll whatever. Yeah. That is not a commentary on this. And in fact, even saying it's none of your business whether or not a person is trans or cis is not also saying, this is going to be the other comment, that lying about whether you are trans or cis is justified. But I know how the comments work, right? And then as far as, I like your left-hand example, the example I like even more is gay. Prove that gay people exist. Do it. Yeah. Now, what we can do is prove that the psychological capacity for being gay certainly exists. And we can do the same thing with everything you need in your brain because of the way genetics work to have the psychological experience that of womanhood or manhood or something else. All of it exists in the brain, the capacity for. But as far as proving anybody is gay, proving anybody who's even having gay sex is actually enjoying the sex they're having, you can't prove any of that.
Yep. It's now to hit a couple other things real quick, because I know suddenly this has turned into TACIS part 2. It's the cis guys TACIS. Yeah. But the fears that he's leveraging are legitimate fears. Let's say I enter a relationship with someone. I'm attracted to them. I like them. We want to go out on a couple dates. At what point between meeting them and expressing an interest and actually being naked in bed should we have a discussion about genitalia or what we like with sex? Now, part of the problem is that in this cis-normative, heteronormative, uber macho culture, we have a lot of dudes who'll go out and hang out at a bar and hit on women and don't want to actually have any sort of conversation about partnering or partnership. It's not even a dating thing. It's just let's go fuck. And so they don't want to ever find themselves on the way to the bathroom or the alley behind the bar having a conversation about genitalia. They don't want to be potentially surprised. And that's why they're worried. Does this make me gay? Would this make me gay? Or don't I have a right to know? If you're actually interested in a relationship with another human being, every bit of the information that you have a right to know and that you perhaps should know in a caring partnership will come up in due course. Yeah. Now, to be fair, I didn't necessarily have to have those conversations with any of my partners because, well, actually with some of them I might have, but a good chunk of them were sex workers of some type at some point.
Yeah.
If you're in a committed relationship with someone, the conversation about sex and sexuality and all that's going to happen. But if you meet someone in a bar, your right to know what their genitals are doesn't exist until that becomes relevant to an interaction with those genitals, or whenever that person wants to tell you. It's presumptive to think that, first of all, I think it's presumptive to think that anybody wants to fuck you. And you know, it's like, oh, we were having a good conversation. If you would stop looking at women, cis or trans, as a place to dump your seed or as a thing to be conquered and actually view them as people to have conversations with, all of your fears will go away. Because first of all, they'll immediately be more comfortable with you and more comfortable about opening up, and you'll find stuff out.
Yeah.
If you get over your toxic masculinity baggage of, oh my God, somebody's going to think I'm gay, all of a sudden, none of this would be an issue. I'm not gay. I don't give a shit if people think I'm gay. I don't care if they call me gay. If I was gay or bi or trans, I'd be happy to, or bi or trans, gay or bi or pan, I would be happy to tell you. If I was trans, I'd be happy to tell you too. It's, you know, it's also one of those things that is none of your business. And I don't understand the need to categorize others. Like, what difference does it make to you if Jimmy's gay or bi or pan, or if I'm gay or bi or pan? It doesn't even make, you know, like, I'm in a relationship with someone. What goes on in that relationship is none of your business. How we want to categorize it or clarify, that's none of your business either. I don't know how this turned into the cis TACIS show, but what else we got?
Well, real quick, two things. One, it's funny because I can remember from years ago, lots of men saying, I don't care if you're gay, just don't hit on me. And I've never heard that from a person for whom that was a problem. And then two, I do have a minor piece of criticism. You've mentioned this is like TACIS part 2, but you've missed the opportunity to call it TACIS. Just saying, it's right there. Just saying. Anyway.
That's a fair correction.
Yeah.
I think it's because since I'm essentially partnered up with one of the founders of TACIS, I don't want to disparage their wonderful name with my not clever. Well, in your case, it was clever. For me, it would not be clever.
Whereas I disparage it every Thursday I produce with my cis interjections. No, we have a great time. It's an amazing show. And by the way, if you don't know what we're talking about when we say TACIS, every Thursday on this channel at 2 p.m., the same time that you're seeing this show, but on Thursday, is the Transatlantic Call-In Show. And truly, it is my favorite show on the line. And it is a show where two trans people take calls from anybody. It can be allies. It can be people like we just spoke to, gender criticals, whatever freight TERFs, whatever phrase you want to use. Certainly transphobes call in, and they handle the calls. And we have got a lineup of incredible communicators as well. It's not just that is the show. It's that the people we have, we really like the people we have, and we hope that you'll check that out. I think we have at least the next one, if not two, already scheduled as well. Remember, if you ever see live events in your feed and it's like 3 days from now, you should still click that and click set reminder. It'll get you a notification on the day of, so you don't miss it. It's the best show.
Stephanie Holmes just pointed out, everywhere is the cis TACIS show, and we're fucking stuck in it. Just like it's like people are like, when's White History Month? It's every fucking month, douche.
Mm-hmm. And then as far as people who have problems, I don't think we're going to be able to get through all of it, but I see a lot of people trying to pop up in live chat. And so I just want to make this clarification. We do it periodically. Live chat is not a place where you get to come in and be an opponent to anybody. If you go to the live chat to argue, the only thing you're going to be told is the arguments happen on air, period. That's it. Done. You argue with us. We don't gather. What are we at right now? I'm sure we lost some people because we always do when we talk about trans issues, but we don't gather 2,000 people live so that you can, separate from our show, preach your bullshit to them in the live chat. If you want access, if you want to speak to our 2,000 live people, you call us and we'll let you, but only over a call, not in the text. That's everything. Go ahead.
Can I steer for one call and just get it over with like instantaneously?
Do whatever you're good.
All right. Robert in Romania, pronouns are he, him. Are you there, Robert?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
It says here that your question is, why should I believe the claim of a person being a transgender?
Yes, Matt. Yep.
Yeah. Whether or not you believe the claim is irrelevant. The only thing that matters is that you treat them with respect as human beings, and respect that if they tell you they're trans, you should treat them as if they are and the way they want to be treated. That's why. Because they're human beings, and because it's none of your business, and because you don't have the ability to read their mind, and because to not do so would be contrary to humanism, contrary to being a decent human being, and that's the entire answer. Thanks, Robert.
Wait, I want to try one thing with Robert.
Shit.
Oh, damn it. Okay, it's all good. I was just going to ask.
I thought I made that clear when I was like, let me knock this out and get it done.
You did. I was just going to, basically you teed it up, and I was just going to end that by going, so, Robert, are you trans? To which I think Robert was going to say no, and I was just going to go, why should I believe you?
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. And why should I believe that you're not trans? And why should I treat you as if you're cis? Why shouldn't I just default to treating you as a trans? That should be perfect, Jimmy. That was wonderful. I'm sorry I hung up too quick. That should be the default every time somebody asks that.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Good. Jason Jack in Vermont. Can I just call you Jason every time, or do you prefer Jason Jack? I like it.
Sure.
How about JJ?
I'll go with Jason Jack.
It sets me apart from all the other Jasons.
I see. Okay. Got it. Jason, you're on the line. What do you want? So what would you like to share?
my life was a childhood. I was raised by a fundamentalist pastor, and my stepmom. They're both, like just as fundamentalist as it gets. A lot of abuse, a lot of, like it was a worst case scenario of religion gone wrong. And I left when I was 16 and never really looked back. And here I am, 51 years old. So, all these years later, and they've both reached out to me recently, like through Facebook. And I guess I'm having a bit of a struggle with I don't know if it's just a reopening wounds kind of a thing, or, I've carved my own path in life. I've, kind of dedicated my life to, skepticism and reasoning, and, cause I was raised young earth creationist, the whole 9 yards. And it's helped me shape my worldview, and which very much aligns with what I hear on this show regularly. Just the reduction of human suffering is kind of why that's the meaning for life to me, as
sure.
And so I guess my struggle is, in my stepmother's message to me, she starts it off with all the apologies that she owes me and this, that, and the other, and then goes on to tell me that for my dad's sake, she hopes that I reach back out to them. And so, I just interpreted that as self-serving, and, I don't gain anything from that. I feel like me moving on and taking the path that I have has been, all the gain that I could, hope for.
So Jason,
mm-hmm.
I just want to start simply, and then I want to ask you a couple things. To put simply, if you just need to hear from another person that you have essentially the permission, not from us, it's the permission you should give yourself, that you have the permission to decide to not re-engage with your father because it would open up too many wounds, you have that permission. And if that's what you want to do, that's what you should do. A few things. One, if you haven't already, definitely... Actually, now I'm starting to wonder, you didn't call Dying Out Loud this week, did you? This last week?
I didn't. Unfortunately, I have to work during that time, and I can't call. So
gotcha.
I really did want to call and talk to Dave about it. But,
somebody called this
but
last...
you guys too, I really respect your perspective, so that's why I at least wanted to do this.
Watch the episode if you haven't already, and if you have, maybe watch it again, because somebody called in with almost your exact question about whether or not... I guess this is the nice thing about being a host and a producer, because I remember a lot of these. But whether or not basically they should feel a sense of obligation. Another thing, I have a very manipulative family. And I don't know whether you do or don't. However, I will tell you, if I received a message with apologies, in fact, I have a brother who did receive a message sort of like this, where things were falling apart for my parents, as multiple siblings were all at the same time going, like, they were trying to push back against one sibling's claim of abuse. And they basically were running through all the rest of the siblings to try and get some agreement that sibling's crazy. And pretty much everybody was like, no, yeah, that's how everybody feels. And at one point, one of my parents then tried to send a message similar to what you're describing to one of the siblings they hadn't reached out to yet, to try and sort of save face and hope that they could essentially guilt that person into maybe maintaining neutral if they heard about the conflict coming up, which everybody saw through what was happening at the time. My instinct, in your case, stepmom, it would be my mother, sent me a message about all of the things for which she was sorry or that she wished hadn't happened, either between me and her or me and my dad, and then said, I hope you'll start talking to your dad because he's old or dying or whatever. And you didn't actually say whether your dad's dying, but you can here in a second. I would assume that was manipulative because I know my parents. And it's fine if that's what your instinct is too. And you don't have to then engage them even on that premise. You don't have to say, I think you're being manipulative. Fuck you. You don't have to argue. You can just let it go. If you want to leave a short message of I'll think about it, because that's probably true. Or you know, I probably would say something like, I will think about it, but please do not reach out to me. I will reach out to you if I decide to. is probably what I would go with. Anyway, I just wanted to make some of those points.
Well, yeah, that's spot on when regarding my stepmother, like that's her whole thing was manipulation, gaslighting, emotional abuse, physical abuse, and my dad would just respond to her manipulation with the wrath of God. And, so it was enough to, send me packing and I've had my exciting journey through life, but I'm, I feel like I'm relatively happy, overall, even, and I've been through things that most people go through, divorce and failed business and all that at this point in my life. I have a career that I'm comfortable in, and I'm.
How long did your dad have left? In a good way. Is he sick or anything?
See, I'm only making assumptions. I don't know. There was no statement of he's looking at mortality now. So if you want to repair any kind of relationship, or I think that's what the underlying theme of it, even though it wasn't specifically stated as that.
So basically, the proposition is you can spend time with your dad now, and at some point, probably in the not super distant future, if the two of you fix it all, he'll die in peace and you'll live in peace knowing you fixed it all. Alternatively, you might not be able to fix it. It might cause more strife, and then after a short period of time, he'll die, maybe not in peace, but he'll be dead. So he also won't have the opposite of peace. He won't have unrest. And you'll be left with new wounds, reopening old wounds, and it could suck very much for, let's just say, a decade of additional work to do to get past the new stuff. Right. It could be less, it could be more. And those are the stakes you have to consider. Is that worth it? Well, and how much damage was there in the first place? With my family, too much damage. There's no real benefit. I'm never going to admit out loud who, because I suspect they watch the show every now and then. One of my parents I probably would reestablish a relationship with if the other one would die, but not the other way around. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it for me. Maybe. And that's a maybe. But yeah, it's you have to, unfortunately, on our end, all we can tell you is whichever option you pick. Talk to him again or don't. Either is fine. Either is valid. But the decision to do so will be yours and only yours.
I just want to make sure that my decision to do whatever I pick is based. In fact, my inclination, the way I've handled this so far, is just no contact. I haven't responded. And, and just doing the gain loss assessment, just like, what do I gain out of it if, let's say, we have the hug and make up whatever feel good moment versus and here's kind of where it left me was I know they're not going to admit that they use their faith as a disguise, as a veil for the abuse. I know that day is never going to come. They'll apologize for the abuse itself, but they won't acknowledge that it was their, faith in belief and doctrine, dogma.
Yeah, they don't want to admit that it was intentional and preventable.
Yeah,
is basically what it comes down to. Yeah,
I guess that's I predict just basically what the most likely outcome is going to be that I think the apology is going to be just self-serving on especially her part. My dad was reactive to things, and so I I'm not, but it was still all done in the name of Jesus, and so and it wasn't perfect by any means, but I was not given a good set of tools. It was I was the child in the situation, and so I guess at this point he's in his 70s. He's 73, I think, and so he may be looking at something terminal, or and there is love in my heart for my father.
Sure.
It does exist, but that I think I think I found a place where that can exist without his presence, you know?
Yeah, and to tell you the truth, it might be better for him, and he doesn't even realize it. That the calmest version of a memory of him might be now. And if he cares about how he's perceived after he dies, some people are, some people aren't, maybe he would give a shit about that. But last thing I can give you, because I feel like we've covered most of it, but certainly I'll let Matt jump in too. But last bit of advice I can give you is if you decide you want to try some sort of intermediate, and this is more of general advice for anybody if they're trying some intermediate communication with people, there is an application out there called Marco Polo. And Marco Polo is like, its short description is it's Skype for busy people. But what it's more like, it's kind of like if you've ever used Snapchat video, except for that the videos don't disappear. So you leave video messages. So instead of Skyping, having a face-to-face, I leave you a message that says whatever, and then on my end, I can watch it and respond to it in my own time, as opposed to being held hostage to the format that is, no, you're in front of me, respond to this now, whatever. Right. It's something that's, it might be totally unuseful for your point, for what you're going through, but maybe useful for somebody else. Matt,
okay, I'll give that some thought, yeah.
Matt, did you have any thoughts?
I have lots of thoughts, but I don't have anything to add that would be useful at this point. I think that was a great discussion.
Cool.
Okay, thank you. Thank both of you.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Jason Jack.
All right. Hey,
Jason Jack.
Thanks. Okay. Guys, keep kicking ass.
Thanks.
All right. Bye.
My favorite brother is named Jason also. And in that vein, just so we can put a bow on it and then hopefully move on just to more relevant stuff, we'll bring in another Jason, Jason, they, them from Tennessee, who wants to ask about moving forward with transgender, being transgender amongst theists. So this one sort of straddles, at least has the theism theme in there. Jason, you're on the line.
Hey, Jimmy. Hey, Matt.
Howdy.
How you doing?
Yeah, I was just trying to join the conversation because I think it's a very interesting one, and I wanted to throw a little bit of theism in there because my family is very Christian and all of that, and I was just kind of wondering if I don't know. I think the signs were there that I'm transgendered back in the day, and it wasn't allowed. Like, the more church we went to, the more it would fix me or something. You know what I mean? Like, they just didn't. Maybe it was embarrassing to them.
How old did you say you were?
I'm 44.
Yeah, and so basically, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying that you're just now discovering that you might have been trans this whole time and just unaware and didn't have options, right?
No, I've known all the time. I just didn't. I wasn't raised in a place where that was acceptable.
Oh, all right. So that's why I asked the questions, because I misunderstood what you're saying. So are you? What? I guess the question is, what are you trying to get at? Because are you? I don't know what state you're in. I see the they them pronouns. Are you trying to just come out to your family?
No, I already have, but it's made things really weird.
So you're trying to find peace with your family.
Yeah.
Then first of all, Jason,
and they're so
I
Christian
apologize
that they
because
can't understand.
I either wasn't listening or wasn't paying attention properly, because I completely butchered what you were calling about. So my apologies.
My bad.
So if I can try and summarize a little bit here, Jason, you're basically saying you've come out as trans to your family. Your family is highly theistic, and growing up, anything that was a sign of your trans identity was basically suppressed or tried to be prayed away, that they saw it as some sort of demon or evil that needed to be overcome from the religious perspective. You've now that you've gotten some independence and you're now 44 years old, you're now in a position where you still have this family who are very theistic, and you'd like them to come to terms
And
with
loving.
your being trans so that you can maybe have a more cohesive relationship. Is that right?
Yeah, that's you hit it. You hit it on the head. You hit the. You're exactly right.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that as I was saying it, the more I was trying to make sure I had your position correct, the more I was hoping I didn't, because the answer is you might not be able to. So when I left religion, my queerness had not yet become a factor. My sexual activity had not yet become a factor. Just revealing to my family that I was not Mormon. And this may be true if I had gone to a different religion, though there's different ways they engage it.
Baptist.
But yeah, for me, it was not Mormon anymore. That's never been healed. And that never, it would seem, will be healed. And I feel bad every time somebody calls in and says something along the lines of like, how can I show my parents? How can I convince my parents? How can I show them what I've learned? And you're talking to somebody with two very Mormon parents who still, they've become more progressive in their old age, and that they're very excited to tell you that they're friends with at least one gay couple. That's it. That's their progressiveness. But they are extremely bigoted still. They are still defensive of the way they were abusive. I've never been able to convince my parents of any of my positions that weren't already basically ones we agreed on before I left.
Well, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you have you lied to them about your stance of how you actually are, just to make things easier?
Early on, I did. Now it'd be impossible now because I'm a public figure anyway. But early on, I didn't tell anybody when I wasn't Mormon anymore. I wouldn't even say until I was ready. I was outed by a brother who was participating in my parents' abuse. And my brother, who had found out in a vulnerable moment, I shared it with him. And he outed me in hopes of upending my life and getting people angry at me. That was his actual motivation. So yes,
I made sure to avoid that.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I just did it without my brother.
Sure. So yes, I lied a lot. In fact, I would say that like even before all of that, I lied to myself and others about my identity, even as a Mormon, because it was so incompatible with what I was having to. So yes, there was a lot of lying early on. There's none now.
I was kind of raised that was like a wrong thing, and that like what I was thinking about myself, I'm talking like from 6 years old, I was taught that was a bad thing. That's like a sin. That's like something that you're supposed to like not think about, and it needs to be, dealt with. It's a mental illness or something. I'm like, no, it's not. It's just the way I feel.
Okay, so you mean being trans was the sin. I see. For a second, I thought you were saying that you were taught that lying to your parents, which is also one of the sins they teach you, that lying to your parents is a sin.
Well, it feels like I'm lying to everybody for like so many years, and then like just keeping something inside that I felt that just wasn't allowed to be addressed.
So I think the only good advice I have for you, because again, what I said earlier is the sad thing. The only good advice I have for you is, if you have people who tend to get more heated, it is often the case that it is good to have a third party there who's, especially if it's somebody who's sort of on both of your sides, like accepts you and your identity, but is friends also with the family. Families behave completely differently the moment you bring a third party in, because they feel now like they're accountable for the things they do. Keep in mind, like, otherwise your families don't, there are lots of people who are willing to beat their kids, but they're not willing to beat their kids in public. Is sort of the easy way to explain this way people are different. Having a mediator, having a third party that keeps people more respectful is helpful. Matt, do you have any, I mean, you're sort of in a similar boat. Your parents haven't changed their beliefs when you changed yours either.
I'm in a similar boat, except for a couple of things. One, not trans and not having to deal with that. And two, I don't give a fuck what my parents think.
Yeah.
If
I wish I was.
If who I am and what I do and who I love is a sufficient problem for them that they can't be respectful and mind their own business when it's not their business, I don't need them in my life just because we're blood relatives.
that makes complete sense.
But for those people who do value those relationships, I got nothing but love for you. And it's like, here's an example. Congratulations. I brought up my ex-wife twice today, and she messaged me in the middle of the show. So, I mean, I'm still really good friends with my ex-wife. She cares more about her heritage and the heritage of people, let's say, from Appalachian traditions in Tennessee, where she grew up, which is where you are or were.
Yes.
I don't give a rat's ass about heritage or what my ancestors did. I mean, it's an interesting piece of curiosity that one of the first Dillahunties in the United States was a preacher at one of the 3 Baptist churches that became the foundation of the Southern Baptist Convention. And, you know, I have a passing interest in that, but I don't care what my ancestors did. I'm not beholden to them. I'm not responsible for them. I don't feel a tie to them. When people start talking about, you know, cultural appropriation,
I'm sorry, you still love them as what they were, but like you just don't agree.
Well,
I'm assuming
that I don't love the pastor that formed the Baptist church, but that was 140, 150 years ago, whatever it was. I don't know him.
Yeah.
I don't care. My ability to care about people and value them isn't limited to family, and generally speaking isn't biased by family, although we're all going to be biased. I take it easy on my mom more because she's my mom than if she were a caller. But at the end of the day, if I don't need anybody in my life, whether they're blood relatives or not, who is toxic and disrespectful and not respectful to my partners and stuff like that. So I'm not the best person to ask about familiar relationships.
It's almost more disrespectful to like get like faked on. Like, we accept it, we're good, you know, it's okay. But I've known these people for 44 years. You know, I know whenever they're blowing smoke up my butt. You know.
Yep.
So, but it's good that they accept it. But it, like, you know, it kind of doesn't matter at the end of the day. You're right.
Yeah. Well, Jason, I think that's pretty much everything we've got for you at this moment. Anything left before we move on?
I can talk forever, but I appreciate talking to you guys.
Sure. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks so much,
Love
Jason.
the show.
Sure. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you.
Oh, call on Thursday, too, by the way. They may have more info for you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I want to talk to Arden. I want to see what she's all about.
Arden's not on this Thursday, but Dr. Ben and Katy Montgomerie are.
Although if you want, she's downstairs, and I could get. No, I'm kidding.
I know all you guys vicariously.
Wonderful. Awesome. Well, thanks, Jason.
Good talking to you.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
I am very interested to see. So as far as we've got about 40 minutes we could fill until 5 o'clock when I'm going to Aron Ra's channel where we'll be reading the Book of Mormon. Yeah, we've got 37 minutes we could do with that. From here forward, we're only going to accept new theist callers calling in. We do have a couple argumentative callers, but not specifically theist callers lining up. So from here forward, we would still prioritize if a theist comes in, but we'll take a couple of these last calls. But let's talk to. Well, do you have a preference? I kind of want to see you and John.
Yeah, go for it.
John in Austin, I feel like I remember you called last week, but maybe I'm wrong. John in Austin, you are on the line.
Good afternoon, Matt and Jimmy. I know that was not me on the line last week, but I've watched the show for years, and I've...
Hey, John, before we proceed, what can we do about your audio? I don't know if we're on speakerphone, but I'm hearing echoes. You sound far away. What can we do here?
Let me switch it over. I'll switch it off the speaker.
Yeah, if we could just talk straight into your headset, that'd be good.
How's that?
We'll find out. Let's go ahead and let us know what your challenge is here today.
Okay. Basically, I've been a member of this watch for years, and I've agreed wholeheartedly with things that you said and Matt has said. I take exception to the fact where I agree with the argument of bodily autonomy for females who end up pregnant, 100%. But I don't think Matt went far enough, speaking of bodily autonomy for individuals that use intoxicants.
Excuse me?
Yeah, I believe that bodily autonomy did not extend to individuals who use intoxicants. For the life of me, I can't figure out why.
My position, John, before we straw man me, I use the bodily autonomy argument or bodily sovereignty argument for abortion, but it is a foundational principle that, generally speaking, I'm an advocate for sovereignty over one's own body in virtually all areas. So why is it you think that I don't go far enough on people who use intoxicants? I'm perfectly willing to let people use drugs and alcohol.
Oh, then I have to, realize that I erred in straw manning you. I thought that your position on it was that it didn't extend to the use of illegal intoxicants.
No, I don't know where you got that idea. I've used illegal intoxicants. I've talked about it.
Well, okay. I guess this is going to be a short call then, because that was what I was addressing, and I obviously was misinformed on your view.
I wonder, I have complicated views on it. I don't think we should bar people from alcohol or a lot of drugs, but I find there's an argument I find interesting. I haven't settled down where I am on it about how, for example, when it comes to other issues, in the name of bodily autonomy, we don't allow people who are of a certain age to consent to certain things because their brain isn't actually capable of consenting to that. They haven't developed enough. They don't have the mental capacity to actually consent to that, and there are other things afoot. And that might be true also of anybody at any age with certain drugs, that you actually don't have the mental capacity or the mental even ability to understand certain types of addiction until you are addicted. But then whether or not you then say the government or society at large therefore should restrict you from consenting to that is a very interesting conversation. And we're talking about extreme drugs, things like methamphetamine, things like heroin, though versions of that are also available in the prescription system. So it's sort of hard to say. But again, I'm trying to find some conflict somewhere from this channel that maybe, and I think I've had this conversation on that channel. Again, that's not me saying I actually do think, therefore, an adult who's hurting no other person. I think I've said many times, if I know that I'm dying, I'm going out the heroin route because that sounds the most fun way. And I wouldn't want somebody to stop me from doing that. But I don't know any other way to save this call other than to present that as a potential argument for why some drugs should still be restricted, because you can't actually consent to them.
Well, I disagree with that from personal experience. And I am 72, and I have been using hard drugs on and off since the age of 16. The only drug that I refuse to use, and I have not used in approximately it's going on the 40th year next May, is alcohol. That made me just act in a way that I refuse to continue. So I haven't had a sip since then. I've done heroin. I've spent probably 7 figures on it, but I've made a lot of money, and I didn't have to resort to illegal stealing. I never went to prison. I've been extremely successful considering the cards that I was dealt in life, and I managed to turn it around.
Yeah, so John, here, I'm just going to cut this off because this isn't a conversation I want to pursue much longer on, especially with the theme of this show. Also, it's getting into some weird territories. As far as the argument I presented, at best I could say okay, but I can also conceive of the potential of a genius 12-year-old whose brain has advanced to the potential of being able to consent to things we don't usually let 12-year-olds consent to, and we still don't, because at large, that's still an issue. But again, as far as the issues of, I don't think we're going to do a pro-heroin phone call. John. But thank you for calling. And if you have something a little more thematic to the show, feel free to call back. See ya. Fucking weird call. Any preference on the two lines I see?
I'm good. I'm baffled that somebody would wait an hour to tell me I'm wrong or don't go far enough on bodily autonomy and then not know what my position is and get it wrong. It's just weird.
Yeah, what is that? Is this the presumption of, I've heard Matt say bodily autonomy, and I assume because most of society is anti-drug to some extent, therefore Matt is anti. What? I don't even understand where that comes from, because it's not as though, I don't know, I've produced a lot of your shows and I've never seen you present something like that. So I think it just had to be presumption from the onset. I don't know.
It may be that, so I'm not in favor of legalizing all drugs.
Yeah.
Only because of, evidence.
Yeah.
I'm fine with people being sovereign over their own body. I'm fine with, so for example, death with dignity and the notion that there are people who can reasonably want to end their life, and that this should be a supported option. And I think it should be a legal supported option. And despite that, there are individuals who are suicidal at different points in their life. And I think we as a society and the people who care for them have a responsibility to keep them from opting for a permanent solution to a temporary problem if all the reasonable evidence is that this is something that they will regret or would regret, given the opportunity to it. There's a difference between saying, oh, well, Matt doesn't go far enough on assisted suicide or a right to suicide because he doesn't want anybody and everybody who feels like killing themselves at any point to engage in it. I mean, that's the closest I could get to what he might have been saying, because I'm not in favor of legalizing absolutely everything and to everyone of all ages. I would be fine. Almost all the drugs that he listed, if some adult wants to engage in that in a way where they're not doing harm to others. And this is the difficult thing, because a lot of these things, by damaging your own life, if you're a parent responsible for a child, yeah, and you get out of your mind high to the point where your kid is in danger, that's grossly immoral, and I would hope should be illegal. And we as a society should have an interest in taking your kid away from you to protect it from you. And that should be the priority, even over trying to get you to stop doing something risky. But other than that, I can't see where I think he just misunderstood something I said, maybe.
Perhaps. Yeah. All right. Joe in New York. Joe, you are on the line.
Hey guys, how you doing?
We're fine.
Hey,
how are you?
Jimmy and Matt. Boy, I've been wanting to talk to you guys for a while.
Every time somebody says that, the comedian in me wants to just hang up immediately.
I get you. But no, I just wanted to get your take, Matt. Now, I've been an atheist all my life. I read the Bible as a young man, and I thought, geez, that's horrific, man. How can anybody believe this? And I put it down, and I never picked it up again. And so I watch a lot of these shows. I watch this show a lot. I watch Atheist Experience a lot, etc. And I watch some other.
I'm sorry. That was a joke. That was a joke. Ignore it. I don't mean it.
It's okay. So I wanted to get your take about these people. Like, most of them that I see they're apologists, and they may start out with, I used to be an atheist. And my first reaction is, no, you never used to be an atheist, man. You're just
that's a mistake.
I'm sorry?
You said you were an atheist your whole life, right?
Yes.
So at some point they must have been an atheist too, right?
Well, that's where I'm having my problem with, because they go into then all of the same old apologist arguments and et cetera, as if they've been taught it by rote. And I'm like, how could you have been a theist or an atheist and just hear the same stuff that I'm hearing. And then all of a sudden, oh, now you're convinced. I was just wondering, have you ever run across somebody that you believed was an atheist when they said, I used to be an atheist, but now I'm...
Yes.
Really?
I just, of course. I don't know how you can, we just settled the fact that,
okay.
Were you an atheist at 2 years old? Were you an atheist at 5 years old? Were you an atheist at 10 years old? Why is it so hard to believe that somebody else might have been an atheist then?
Okay. You're right.
The question, the surprising thing isn't, what do you mean you used to be an atheist? It's, were you a skeptic? And did you stop being a skeptic? So when I have conversations with these people who are like, I used to be an atheist, it's like, awesome. When you say you used to be an atheist, are you talking about before like when you were a child? Or do you mean as an adult, you considered the God hypothesis and rejected it? And I don't always get an answer to that. But my follow-up question is, were you a skeptic? And are you still a skeptic? And on a couple of occasions, I've had people tell me they're no longer a skeptic. And I'm like, well, that explains why you're a theist then, because you suspended your skepticism and you believed for bad reasons. And skepticism would stop you from believing for bad reasons if you applied it correctly. It's very, very rare that I get someone who says, I am still a skeptic and I used to be an atheist. And on the rare occasions when I get to run across somebody with that position, I say, great. Then you should have an argument supported by sufficient evidence to convince any other skeptic, I'm right here, what is it? And to date, nobody's even been able to fumble their way through an argument without evidence.
Right.
It is not atheism that is the issue. It is skepticism that is the issue. When someone tells me I used to be an atheist, the only thing I care about is, okay, what changed your mind, and is it supported by skepticism? If somebody tells me they used to be an atheist and became a theist, that's not surprising to me, because literally everybody I ever witnessed to who found Jesus and converted started off, in some cases or another, as an atheist. On occasion, they might have converted from like Judaism or something else. But if there were people out there who don't believe in a God, yeah, I run around with, I know atheists, or I know people who were Christians. I know one person who was a Christian who became a prominent figure in the atheist community and then went back to their religion. I'm not convinced that they became a theist, because their reasons for going back to their religion are not good. But also, I know a guy who used to be known as the empathetic atheist, who had his own podcast, who became a Muslim and then went to prison for raping children.
Yeah.
That's wild. That's wild.
I have a similar, there was a nowhere near as bad an outcome, but there was a person who came onto the scene that used to go by Sassy Atheist, who got extremely angry at me because I didn't respond to a request from her to let her interview me on my channel. So it was, I would like to interview you on your channel. I'd like your audience, not mine. I'm bringing nothing. Anyway, she then revealed one day that she was listening and some Christian music came on, and that was the moment she felt the love of Christ refill her again, and she was back to being a theist. So I think the question, Joe, is if you say to a person, okay, you say you were an atheist, but you weren't really an atheist, what definition of atheist were you using that they weren't meeting?
Right. I get you. Yeah, I mean, I'm fully aware, like...
No, it was a question. Answer the question, though. What definition of atheist were you using that they weren't meeting?
My definition of atheist is just someone who does not accept the God claim. I have a lack of belief in God or God. That's all the...
So what about the atheist that you said you weren't a real atheist, didn't fit that definition when they claimed they were an atheist?
Oh, well, let me clarify. I've never said that to anybody. I just hear these people say I used to be an atheist, and I sit here to myself thinking, No, you didn't.
Joe,
you weren't an atheist. How could you have been?
I get it, because what you're doing is something that I think all of us, though whenever I say that, Matt's usually the exception, but almost all of us feel at some point like we wish we could gatekeep atheism. We wish we could say that if you're going to use the word atheist, you better mean skeptic too. And that somewhere inside of us, we wish those things went together, because especially since becoming a YouTuber, when I wasn't a YouTuber, I was expecting to enter an extremely skeptical community, only to find out that I don't even think most atheists are skeptics. Whereas my previous delusion was that they were. And so the desire to gatekeep is understandable, but you don't actually get to gatekeep it. If the definition is what you said the definition is, and that definition is correct, then adhering to that definition or not is what makes a person an atheist. And to say that like your default state, if you ever became a theist, was theism before, actually almost has some like spiritual implications that theists would agree with you on. Yeah, that's right. If anyone ever became a theist, it's because in their heart they always knew. It's actually hard to defend the perspective that a person who ever became a theist was never truly an atheist without engaging in some theistic propaganda bullshit.
Right. Yeah, because I can understand like positions like Matt's, where he used to be a believer in God and everything else, and then for his reasons, he what's it called? Deconverted or
that's one of the terms a lot of people use. Yeah.
I'm sorry, deconstructed.
Either way.
And he found the reasons why, you know, this doesn't sound right to me or believable anymore. So I can understand, you know, like I said, as a young man, having read the Bible and all the things in it that horrified me, I can understand somebody being a theist and then suddenly something clicks one day and they go, yeah, I don't believe this anymore. But it's hard for me to, I guess that's just my own fault too. That's the fault within me. I find it hard to accept that somebody could have been a non-believer, but then all of a sudden something clicked where they all of a sudden believe. And I don't mean to belittle anyone when I say they start to believe all this nonsense, because to me it's nonsense. I understand to a lot of other people it's not nonsense. And
but Joe, doesn't every, and I think Matt,
believing in God, but
Joe, I think Matt was kind of making this point to you. Every believer at some point doesn't believe, right?
Yeah, which is what I should have thought about that way, because that's something I never really considered. I'm an old man, you know, and
it's all good.
You know, I never considered that. He's absolutely correct. I never considered, well, were you an atheist, you know, at 5, at 10, you know. I mean, I never even that never even.
If you value your sanity, don't take that question to Twitter.
But even in that case, if somebody said, I'm 62 and I was an atheist until I was 57, and then I became convinced, I'm going to believe them. What other option do I have? The fact that someone is an atheist doesn't in any way mean that they had a good reason to be an atheist.
Oh, that's wow. That's a way of thinking about it I didn't think about it before.
Well, it's the same thing that Jimmy said when he talked about how disappointing it is to find out that, you know, how many atheists are skeptical or are skeptics, and it's probably not even most. And I mean, I gave a number of talks, and I work with the skeptic community. I gave a lecture years ago about how the atheist community is not skeptical enough to suit me, and the skeptical community is not atheistic enough to suit me. And the skeptical community failing to be atheist enough is just a personal little objection. It is, right. I wish they would focus on the elephant in the room more than they do on Bigfoot. But
right.
the fact that the atheist community isn't skeptical enough to suit me is an absolutely embarrassing, pathetic state of affairs. The notion that there's a bunch of woo peddling, non-rational, non-skeptical people who are out here just half-assed mocking God, like the prick that called at the beginning of the show. When I'm around the theists, I argue with the theists, and when I'm around the atheists, I argue with the atheists. He's just a contrarian. He doesn't know anything about what he's talking about, doesn't have any understanding of the book that he's arguing about or from. Those are the atheists that piss me off, and I spend more of my time engaging, teaching, and correcting shitty versions of atheism that aren't sufficiently skeptical enough than I probably ever have focusing on Christians or theists getting it wrong.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a topic for another time. But I laughed when you said Bigfoot, because I'm the one that's in the chat that says the atheist Bigfoot inquiry, and
gotcha.
Yeah, the people in the Bigfoot world aren't appreciative of me either. But thanks for taking the call, Matt. I've always wanted to talk to you. I love listening to you because you always give me new ways of thinking about things. And Jimmy, I just wanted to say, just be yourself, man. And I've always wanted to say, go fuck yourself, Jimmy.
Thank you. I don't know about the be yourself thing, as if I've ever done anything else, but I appreciate the go fucking myself. See you, Joe.
Thank you.
I do like that at the beginning of the call, he said he was very excited to talk to the two of us. And then at the end of the call, he thanked just Matt because he's always wanted to talk to Matt. Oh, well, I'll get there one day. No, I won't. I'll retire before then. From call-in shows anyway. From being on call-in shows, hosting them. Daniel in Germany, unless we get no other theists. By the way, the lines are still open for theists. There's not very much time, but if you are a theist, you have an argument for God, we'd love to hear it. In the meantime, we have Daniel in Germany. Daniel, you're on the line.
Hello. The first thing that I want to say is sorry if my English isn't all that good. I think it's okayish, but I was never really good with
Hang on.
languages.
The tag's wrong.
Oh, my apologies. I'll fix
This is not Robert.
Yeah.
Sorry, Daniel. I just wanted to correct this. I didn't want to saddle you with Robert's stuff.
In fact, here's what I'm going to do, just so that I...
No problem.
Just for the sake of clipping, I'm going to do this. Daniel in Germany, you are on the line. Tell us what you want to share.
I am an atheist, I think, for most of my life. I think when I was younger, I was more of an agnostic. Here in Germany, religion is not so important as it is in the US. But it was, at least when I was younger, it was still quite normal to say, I believe in God, and maybe when it's Christmas, you go once to church. So yeah, the typical Sunday Christian. And I had my really militant atheist phase. I'm not that proud about that. I think I have today a much more sophisticated view, at least in some things. And a topic that I think about a lot is, will religion ever disappear? So will every person become at least an agnostic or even an atheist? And is that even good when religion would completely disappear? My first thought would be, yeah, sure, because religion has a lot of bad things connected to it, but it gives also some people, at least when they have a somewhat progressive view of religion, a lot of hope and hold. For example, I had a girlfriend. She is religious, I think. She is very progressive, but religious. We had a lot of talk about that, and I could never understand why she is religious, also why she is such rational people, rational person in most of things, but not in that. But I could at least understand that it gives her meaning in life, that when she has a hard time, then she can think about it. I can at least understand that, and I think if that all would disappear, I think it for some people that it wouldn't all that good for them, because I don't need it, but people who maybe need something like that, it would be bad for them. I would like to hear what you think about that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we've got it. I don't think we necessarily need any more setup. Well, Matt, you go first. I feel like I've been going first most of the time.
Sure. I don't mean this to be insulting, but I find that line of thought incredibly arrogant. Mm-hmm. The notion that, well, I don't need religion, but I think the little people do, or I'm okay with them doing it. Don't get me wrong. I don't think that's what you're doing, but I've heard other people do it. To understand that some people find value and comfort in a religion, we all understand that. It makes perfect sense. The issue for me is whether or not it's real. So when you say, if religion were to go away, would that be a good thing? Well, religion is a broad category that includes a lot of different beliefs. There's organized religions and then just non-organized religions and all that. I don't think irrationality is likely to ever go away. I don't think religious types of beliefs are likely to ever go away, but they will probably change. As we learn more about the world, religions have changed. And the ones that adapt are the ones that survive. The ones that said lightning bolts come from Zeus, those don't tend to survive. I don't care what the self-professed cosplay pagans want to say. That's congratulations. I just got us some email. But as we learn more, the religions that are too rigid in their tenets will vanish, and slowly. But I think there will always be something that comes out of our irrationality and our hopes and dreams and things like that. The part where I have a problem is when we say, yeah, I understand why these people might need religion, even if I don't. And I think that's a mistake, because I understand why they feel like they really need religion. I don't understand why they need religion, because most of the things that they're seeking religion to comfort them for or to provide hope for are problems that religion created in the first place. If we were to teach people from an early age that death is an inevitable part of life, then you wouldn't need to wish for a heaven to meet with people to reunite and make amends to them. You treat people right the first time, and you move on from there. And so for me, I don't think religions are going to go away as a broad category in my lifetime. I don't think there's a modern main organized religion that will end in my lifetime. But I would think that the end of all irrational beliefs would be a good thing and a goal worth striving for, even if it's not achievable. It is setting that goal allows us to work towards a world where people can give up their religious beliefs for good reasons and find landing places in societies and communities that don't depend on religion, because the parts of religion that are most appealing are the ones that religion stole from us. We are generally social creatures. We are generally supportive of each other. I just saw a little video clip today of a group of turtles where one of them had gotten turned over on its back, and all the other turtles went over to it and helped flip it back over to the right. The notion of caring for other creatures and altruism and doing something for which there's not an immediately obvious benefit to you, just the notion that, hey, this is what I would want to happen if it were me, that's the key. That's what we need, and that's who we are. And religion doesn't own that. In the same way that when Jimmy earlier, the caller who was like, why should I accept or believe someone when they say they're trans? Why should we believe you when you say you're cis? Why should the default assumption be that, or that that's the only way, or anything along those lines? Why shouldn't the default case be, hey, there are people and we need to respect them for who they are, and we can be supportive and we can mind our own business? So while I don't think it's the end of the world that your partner or anybody else happens to be associated with a religion, if I were dating someone who was religious or became religious, there would be a lot of conversations about that, about what they're getting out of it. And at the end, it's a lot of it's just going to go down to, do I actually think that it's true? And that's the part that's most important to me, because if somebody tells me that they aren't convinced the religion is true, but they're a part of that religion because it brings value to their life, I know a lot about this. I know a lot from what they've said.
Yeah.
Which is, they are engaging in essentially cosplay. They don't, if somebody says, oh, I'm part of the Christian church because of, how I feel, they're not a Christian in the sense of they actually believe this stuff.
Yeah.
They are a cultural Christian in the fact that there are benefits to that. And I think that part of what we, as the broader secular community, have a responsibility to do is to build a world where those benefits that they're getting from their religions are available in the secular community, where if you want to get together on Sundays, you can go to Oasis, you can go to Sunday Assembly, you can go to the Unitarian Universalist Church, you can come down to the Line dinner hangout that we haven't done in a little while, but we will be doing again.
Definitely.
You can go to those things. And if you don't want community in an in-person sense, but you need community in a support sense, those things need to exist, whether it's online or in person. It is understandable that people seek out community-based religious experiences because, for the most part, there are exceptions. None of us want to be alone. None of us want to feel like we're alone. None of us want to think that we're not loved or cared about. None of us want to think that if something bad were to happen to me, nobody would really care. So that community aspect and the hope that it gives in this life is far more important than the hope that it gives for the next life. The hope for a next life that Christians often spout is a way of avoiding, in my opinion, the fact that what they're really getting is support right now. Not hope for an afterlife, not I'm going to be in heaven and have all the answers and I get to watch you burn in hell. That's just posturing. That's the straw man. That's the Burning Man that they put up in front of Christianity, so you don't see that what they're really doing is not talking to spirits or summoning spirits or worrying about an afterlife, but they're working together towards a goal. Because the second they were forced to realize that without that community, they would be average or below average or normal or not loved or not have a grand purpose in life, all of those things are terrifying. And they're terrifying to all of us. I don't come on here and do this show just because I like showing how right I am. I already know how right I am.
Yeah,
there's a community here.
Dan, only thing I really have to add is, to the core question of will it ever disappear? I think that for the foreseeable future, something religious-like will always be around. But I don't know if you'd call all of them religions. In the same way that because astrology lacks a method of worship, as far as I know, I don't know of any worshipers of astrology, but whether or not you can even categorize astrology as a religion or religious practice is tough. Though obviously we have religious categories for legal reasons that definitely exclude religions. Atheism is a religious category, despite the fact that it is definitely not a religion. So I think that, as long as humans have maintained humanity and there's no like transhumanist future where we're all a bunch of bees in a hive mind or something like that, where we've all uploaded our brains to the matrix, I think you're still going to see the things that caused religion to come about in the first place are still going to come about. And it used to be that I thought that was just things like we're really afraid of the things that we don't know. And so we form religions around that which we don't know. But there's other things. One of them that a lot of people have used the phrase lately is, I think it's called main character syndrome. These people who wake up thinking that like they are the protagonist in some greater story and the entire world is their video game playground. People like Andrew Tate have main character syndrome and they think that they're going to be Jason Bourne and doing scenes like Jason Bourne. I think
hit the time.
Oh yeah, it's 5. So we do have to wrap up, but I think elements will remain. But I don't think that we're going to see the current religions that are mainstream, I think are probably on their way out. And I think the day will come where, in the same way that, Daniel, I don't know what religions you're familiar with, but I'm not very familiar with Jainism. However, I'm aware that it exists. I know a few things about it. I think most people will interact with the mainstream religions we know today that are very much at the forefront of our knowledge in the future. Christianity, Mormonism, Catholicism, Islam, Hinduism will be sort of like Jainism is to me. Like, I know that it exists, and a couple of key phrases I'm probably right on, but I usually have to have people remind me what it is when we talk about it. Daniel, I'll give you a very brief amount of time to wrap up, but we do got to go. I'm wanted on another channel.
Hey, yeah, thank you. That was very interesting, and I think it's a few things that Matt said. I thought myself when I talked with my girlfriend, with my ex-girlfriend about that she was not really a real believer in most of her religion.
Sure.
But it was the
140 characters left. Make this a tweet.
Aspect.
Yeah, tweet length goodbye.
Okay, goodbye.
Okay, that works too. Thank you so much. Yeah, I hated to cut in, but it seemed like another story was beginning, and we unfortunately do have to go.
Wrap it all up and put a bow on it. I have nothing to add. Love doing the show with you.
This was a great show. We'll see you all back here tomorrow. Announcements were earlier. Amazing lineup this week. We actually have an amazing lineup for the rest of the month. We have amazing things planned for June. If you are a person who would like to engage on our debate shows, if you're a theist, go to Q&A, the letter N-A, line.com/endboss. Right now you can apply for that debate show. And we'll be adding more, and the website will be developing a lot this week, especially as I don't have production duties. Other than that, this is Matt Dillahunty, debater extraordinaire. I'm Jimmy Snow, and I was born in the dirt. Goodbye, everybody.
I prefer master debater.
That is a good one. I'll do that in the future.
They can still hear me, can't they?
Yeah, they can.
No, I knew.